easy. Yeah. Mayweather with the defense. I don't care what a critic got to say, I got him picking up the pieces. That to me, you really playing with your life, I'm about to come and run it all back. I'm the new era, about to snap back. You ain't fitting for it, cause you all cap like. Hold up, I shoot my shot, wait, hold up. I'm really about to run this go up. You know it's all net when it go up. Ain't got no other plans, you don't need to understand. Ay, we on overtime, you don't need to understand. Ay, you just show them how to do it when you don't know what to say. Tell me how you plan to win if you plan to play the same. Moving fast, already gone, yeah, but you bringing me back. Try to double cross me, dog, just let me relax. Stop assuming what we doing. Keep it moving, what we doing. Cause it can get bigger, cause it can get bigger, cause it can get bigger. Hey, please don't play no games with me, I promise I'm too much. Hey, I can never let up even if you had enough. Hey, this ain't for the faint of heart, we always playing rough. I had enough, it ain't luck. I needed a vision, I needed ambition, I needed a mission to beat in submission with no intermission. I see the collision, the crash in the distance, they coming off track, no. Now when they ask what's the motive, don't talk, I just show them. They all about to see what I mean in the moment. I gotta keep going, I'm shaking the dice and they're keeping it rolling, they already know. Ain't got no other plans, you don't need to understand. Ay, we on overtime, you don't need to understand. Ay, you just show them how to do it when you don't know what to say. Tell me how you plan to win if you plan to play the same. Moving fast, already gone, yeah, but you bringing me back. Try to double cross me, dog, just let me relax. Stop assuming what we doing. Keep it moving, what we doing. Cause it can get bigger, cause it can get bigger, cause it can get bigger.
All right. We back at it again. Good afternoon, early evening, actually, right? Clap it up. Early evening, it's about 4:30, midday, right? A little past midday, you know. It is what it is. We are tapped in, ready to politic, build on this boxing, you know what I mean? Current news and everything going on in the space. We're going to talk about Shakur today a little bit, right? Shakur does a little interview with the up-and-coming channel here. What is this here? Same as channel, The Divine Hook. Shout out to The Divine Hook, putting in an interview with Shakur Stevenson, showing some love to the up-and-coming channels, and Shakur communicates to the space his game plan for 2026, exactly how he plans on handling himself after this whole entire Teofimo situation unfolds. And, you know, Shakur is starting to show that he's done a lot for his legacy, I guess, from his point of view. I mean, he still, you know, continues to want to do things for his legacy, but he's not letting the prize fighting part of the game go away, right? He's still keeping that in the crosshairs of what he's trying to achieve. He's got a fiance, daughter, you know, family to take care of. So we're seeing him make moves like that. To be honest with you, we're watching that whole entire generation of fighters kind of focus on that energy. Devin does the same thing. Shakur is doing, obviously, we see what Tank is doing as well. But we'll talk about that as well and how that affects 135 or 140, right? And Teofimo, all those guys fall underneath that same umbrella as far as the way they want to approach the game. We're going to talk about that. And we're going to talk about Lamont Roach a little bit as well today, as Lamont Roach keeps his eye on the bigger prize or bigger fish to fry, as he's stated. We'll talk about the decisions he's going to be making in the coming months going into 2026. He also has plans on doing some big things for himself, but Floyd Mayweather gets involved in the conversation and wants to he wants Jermell Charlo to jump in there with Lamont Roach, right? Obviously an opportunity. And if Floyd Mayweather's calling it out, he obviously, or maybe more than likely, sees something, a chink in the armor of Lamont Roach, and something he thinks Jermell Charlo can capitalize off of now that Jermell Charlo has built himself up off of the back end of this Gervonta Tank Davis fight as a name in the game. Lamont Roach has options, though. Obviously, you know, people like Richardson Hitchens, Shakur Stevenson, people who have basically stated that they were interested in fighting him, being that he's becoming a well-known name in the game based on the fight he had with Gervonta Tank Davis. We'll talk about him as well. And we'll open the panel up as we normally do, to talk about whatever, have the usual suspects up on the panel to build with us. Shout out to everybody who is in the building. I know it's Sunday, and I'm sure this time of the day there's a bunch of people on and popping right now. Joe Johnson, hello, what's good, my guy? So good to see you in the building. Virgil Wimberly in the building. Salute to you, saying let's go. Visionary 88. Mr. Lightning Boxing in the building. The Loney Fam Sports in the building as well. Salute to all of you guys, man. Hope everything's good with all you guys. As you guys come in the building, please take a moment to hit that like button. Of course, share the channel, subscribe if you haven't subscribed, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So let's talk about this Shakur Stevenson interview here. And he seems to speak pretty frankly. Hold on a second. Let me see here. You're right. And we'll talk about this part right here. Bear with me here. I probably should have had it on cue already, right? It's one of those days, guys. One of those days. Ooh, how we looking here? Let's see here. So shout out to the Divine Hook, all right? And basically, Shakur, this is a quick little snippet.
Sean, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna tell y'all in advance. And y'all can call it whatever y'all want. I'm going BTO, yes, vacate. Get the title, and I'm going vacate, and Keyshawn can get that belt. That'll be his belt.
Well, that was real quick snippet. Shout out to Divine Hook right there. And ultimately the space is feeling some kind of way about it, right? So let's talk about it, right? Let's put it in perspective. I've heard some platforms scream out that this is more frustrating than watching Gervonta Tank Davis fight Jake Paul. Okay. All right. I'll teach their own, right? Listen, Shakur Stevenson, ever since he's left Top Rank, right, has been very transparent about his goals and aspirations on making fights wherever they may be, right? And we're talking about a fighter in Shakur Stevenson who hasn't really been able to make the fights he wants to make, right? There's always a reason. You saw how long it took for the Williams Zepeda fight to develop for him. And we've seen how hard and difficult it's been for him to get cooperations from Gervonta Tank Davis as well, or any other fighter that he's tried to make fights with. So he's made it very clear that the idea of legacy and those things and belts and those things, he's lost really the appetite for that as much, because those fights seem to be difficult, sometimes feeling impossible to be made. But that he'd be looking to make the biggest fights possible, whether it's in his weight class or outside of his weight class, right, ladies and gentlemen? I mean, he's been transparent. He's communicated that. And one thing we understand about this boxing game is you can wait around as long as you want to wait. But, if fighters don't want to, give you the matchups or sign these contracts, there's nothing you can do about it, right? Hence what you see happening with Lamont Roach as we speak right now, who waited however many months for Gervonta Tank Davis to sign a contract and to honor a rematch that the whole world was put on notice. He was supposed to be waiting on happening. We were supposed to be waiting on happening, but we've seen what happened, right? No fight, and we're, some of us are looking forward to seeing him fight Jake Paul on November 14th. Some of us aren't. But taking an example and taking a note from that book, a fighter like Shakur Stevenson not waiting on anybody, right? What opportunities are there at 135? Well, Gervonta Tank Davis clearly is the biggest fight that could be made, but what else is really there? You saw him reach out and give a challenge to Conor Benn to come down to 147. Conor Benn has gone ahead and moved back with Chris Eubanks, and not back to say per se, but that fight did look like it was in jeopardy and it wasn't going to happen. And Conor Benn said he would do it, but look, bigger fish to fry for Conor Benn. Last time him and Chris Eubank fought with each other, that was a 60,000 plus packed out stadium or arena to watch him fight, and I'm sure their highest paydays, so you can't expect them to walk away from that. So what is Shakur going to do? He's pushing for a fight with Teofimo Lopez. In the meantime, we've watched Keyshawn Davis get stripped of a belt, lose his WBO 135-pound title on the scale, and put the world on notice that he was going to 140 pounds. But we also know that Keyshawn's got some things he has to deal with, right? Maybe even legal issues and things of that nature. And although Keyshawn has recently petitioned to have his name moved up on the WBO sanctioned body list at 140 pounds, to put himself at the number one spot, therefore maybe putting himself in position to get a fight with Teofimo Lopez, nothing's really materialized in that direction. Now, guys, keep in mind that Teofimo Lopez is not the easiest person to negotiate with either, right? We have to take that into consideration. And is Keyshawn Davis going to wait on Teofimo Lopez to give him an opportunity? Teofimo wasn't interested in giving him an opportunity before. Would he be interested in giving it to him now? Maybe. I don't know, right? I guess if there's enough money on the table, Teofimo will entertain anything. But that being said, presently, Teofimo Lopez and Keyshawn Davis have been in a public conversation via Twitter in reference to a fight in early 2026. That being said, we know this fight, according to Shakur Stevenson, would be at 140. He'd be challenging Teofimo Lopez for his 140-pound WBO title, and hence where we are presently, coming off the back end of an interview where Shakur Stevenson, who was confronted with the question of how he would deal with becoming a champion in the same division as his, fraternal or adoptive brother, that he's had with Keyshawn Davis. We know that these guys didn't want to fight each other at 135, so why would they want to fight each other at 140? And Shakur Stevenson promptly replied and clarified it for everybody and let it be known, listen, I'll get that title of Teofimo Lopez, but in all reality, I will vacate that title after I beat Teofimo Lopez to give my brother an opportunity to go ahead and fight for it. That could be his division. At least they're addressing the elephant in the room, which is how are they going to handle competing in the same division? And it looks like the answer to that is there's no plans on competing in the same division. But people are holding Shakur Stevenson to task to say, if you're going to become a champion in a division with your brother Keyshawn Davis, why even go into the division if you don't plan on fighting Keyshawn Davis? Why not allow Keyshawn Davis to go ahead and fight Teofimo Lopez? For all argument's sake, you're taking food out of Keyshawn Davis's mouth, or you're taking a fight off the table for him that he might have if you weren't in the division competing. Correct? That makes sense, ladies and gentlemen? Is that the gist of the story at this point? So where do I sit on that topic? Listen, first of all, I have no hopes or aspirations of seeing Keyshawn Davis fighting Shakur Stevenson because they've made it clear they're not going to fight each other. That's how it works. One thing's for sure, two things for certain. I only want to see fighters who want to fight each other. The whole competitive nature of the sport is based off of that to a degree, right? You can watch Keyshawn Davis get in the ring with Shakur Stevenson and have a pretty sparring match. Well, of course, the scrutiny would come in and say that why did these guys even fight each other if they're going to fight that way? Well, I would answer back to that and say, well, they fought each other because you guys relentlessly pushed for a fight that they openly told you they weren't interested in having. So what are we really asking for? If two gentlemen's heart can't be put into the fight, if they can't invest their motivation into the fight to make the fight happen, then what interest does me as a boxing fan have in seeing a fight where two fighters don't want to compete with each other? I think we're dealing with a space of a lot of entitled fans and also really a lot of haters in the game, right? A lot of people in the game that really just want to see certain fights just to criticize the fights on the back end of these fights not delivering on what they think it's supposed to deliver, right? Instead of focusing on the fights that can be made, which is a lot of fights, we're going to make this all about these guys have to fight each other. Well, that's interesting because let's be honest, guys, we don't see that type of pressure being put on their own fighters that they support when it comes time for those fighters to answer the same bell. And to compound those situations and make them even worse, those guys will defend their fighters' right to fight whoever they want to fight until the very end. They don't even want you to mention who you want to see them fight, right? They don't even want to mention. They don't want you to mention it. But at the same time, they'll hold, a fighter like Shakur Stevenson to task to fight somebody who he considers his own brother into the up to the table and use that as some way to discredit Shakur Stevenson and his right to do what he wants to do. Now, a big fight and a huge fight, a fight that the boxing space would love to see would be, of course, Shakur Stevenson versus Teofimo Lopez. These are two fighters who we want to see fight against Gervonta Tank Davis. So them fighting each other, that's a great fight. I think we all know that. There's no argument about that, right? Of course, there's no argument about that. But instead of embracing that idea, the argument is going to be that we don't want to see that maybe. degrade or dismiss the value of that fight and turn this into about Shakur needs to fight Keyshawn Davis. From my point of view, I don't understand the need for them to fight each other. The want, yeah. I can rock out with the want. I'm right there with you on the want. I'd love to see them fight each other. The need, I think that's a different conversation. And I don't think they need to fight each other. I think it'd be nice to see Gervonta Tank Davis fight Shakur Stevenson at 135 pounds and unify and fight a champion for the first time, unify in his own division that he's at rather than leave his division and go up however many weight classes that's going to be to have an exhibition with a YouTube boxer. I think that needs to have some pressure on it. I think the lack of pressure from a certain fan base to their fighter to do that is the reason why we're in the situation we're in now, right? And of course, Tank has taken, he's never been shy to express himself and let his fans know to shut their mouths and be fans. But I think those are the places where the attention is needed as far as what needs to happen versus what doesn't need to happen, right? It is what it is. Salute to Andrew Charles in the building. Ross Clot in the building, man. Says Teofimo Lopez father is a bum. Okay. Eastside Easy in the building said, my man Clay's working. Salute, champ. Salute to you, man. Yeah, I got some time, so I thought I'd turn on the computer and everything and jump into some conversations about what's going on in the boxing space, right? Mr. Lightning Box says the dude's at 140 doesn't really want any smoke with Shakur Stevenson, so most likely his next fight will be at 135. Well, I mean, we'll see what happens with the Teofimo Lopez conversation. I think that fight does sound like a fight that probably has a good chance of happening, but we'll see what ends up happening, man. Andrew Charles says Shakur versus Teo would be dope, but you never what either of those guys are going to do. You never know what either one of those guys are going to do. That's true. And I think more so Teofimo, you don't know what he's going to do, right? Once again, we've seen this happen many a time. Shakur Stevenson pushing for a fight and, the other side of the conversation finding, their way out of the fight. Let's see here. Mr. Lightning Box, and I'd like to see Shakur stick around 135 and continue cleaning that out a little longer before taking over the next division. But either way, I'm cool. But, I think that's the whole point, Mr. Lightning Box, is that Shakur's making it clear that he's not trying to take over 140 pounds, that he's not trying to approach 140 the 140-pound division with any real long-term goals there. He's simply willing to go up there to make a big fight with Teofimo Lopez. He's actually made it clear and doubled down that he plans on returning to 135, that 135 is actually his division, right? So I think that's pretty clear. I don't know if that can get any clearer than that about what he wants to do. The question is the fan base going to accept what he's decided to do or not accept it? I mean, look, if you're going to judge the whole entire space across the board on an even playing field and keep it 100, then I have no problem with it. But if you're going to find a way to support Gervonta Tank Davis for going up multiple weight class divisions to fight Jake Paul and justify it with his money being on point and the opportunity being big and anybody who would be in the same shoes would take the same opportunity, then, what would be respectable and could be honored is if across the board you said, look, man, Shakur got to feed his family. That's still a big fight. At least that's a competitive fight with a fighter with a pulse and not some ridiculous circus fight. And look, I've already stated I have no issues with what Tank's decided to do because it's not about holding issue with him fighting Jake Paul or not. At the end of the day, it's about accepting him for who he says he is, which is not a legacy fighter, a fighter who's fighting for money, and somebody who has no interest in fighting none of the fights that we want to see him fight. So I've let go of that a long time ago, and I've encouraged everybody to let go of that. I've encouraged everybody to let Tank be Tank and stop putting the pressure on him. But it is very hypocritical for a lot of people to sit here and focus their eyes on Shakur Stevenson, who's pursued the championship fights, who's a 3-weight class champion, a unified champion at 130 pounds, who pursued the unification fight with Gervonta Tank Davis, but Gervonta Tank Davis went ahead and freely out of his own choice chose to not put that offer out to Shakur Stevenson, but instead actually take a fight with Jake Paul, who we now know for certain. We speculated about this months ago, but we now know for certain that they've been planned on making this fight. This fight was been supposed to happen between Gervonta Tank Davis and Jake Paul. Before the Lamont Roach fight got put together, they were already in negotiations, according to Calvin Ford in an interview, and according to Jake Paul in plenty of interviews, right? So at the end of the day, a fighter who never planned on fighting the fights that you guys have been asking for decided to move out and go ahead and fight Jake Paul. And the scrutiny was about 24 to 48 hours. And now today, any given Sunday, you can get into an argument with a Tank fan who is justifying and legitimizing his right to go ahead and make money that could change his family's life. And I'm cool with that. Fair play. But am I going to sit here and play hypocrite with you guys and give you guys high fives as you guys sit here and put Shakur Stevenson under some fake magnifying glass and play as if him fighting Teofimo Lopez is on the same level as Gervonta Tank Davis fighting Jake Paul? Nah, the hypocrisy has to stay on you guys. That's your stain to wear, your jacket that's fitted for you, not me, right? I'm not carrying that type of energy. That's ridiculous. It is what it is. Salute to Talk of SD in the building. Says, salute Claymore Rain. Salute back at you, man. Says, yeah, that's why 100%. Ross Clot comments and says, yup, it's sad that exhibition fights generate more money than actual world championship level. Well, yeah, I mean, listen, we can say for all intent purposes that the fan base that's supporting Jake Paul is not, necessarily is not a boxing fan base, right? That's not what they are. They're a casual space of people who support Jake Paul, who are into YouTube fights. They're into seeing Jake Paul on KSI or seeing KSI fight his fights or certain, they're into that kind of thing. That's his fan base that he's brought to put money in their pockets and put into Gervonta Tank Davis's pockets. Hardcore fans may go along with it just to see it for the spectacle reason. But at the end of the day, he's bringing his fan base. And Jake Paul, listen, he's worked very hard, and I give him a lot of respect for being able to build his platform and to build his fan base and be able to take advantage of his star power, right? Of his likeness. He's taking advantage of it and giving somebody like Gervonta Tank Davis an opportunity to get a piece of that pie as a B-side fighter on his card. That's Gervonta Tank Davis's right to take advantage of that and make that life-changing money that clearly his promotional company of the PBC cannot afford to give him, right? Or is not willing to give him, however you want to look at it, right? Because it's a company who's struggling to put up the bigger events. Hence the hiatus of Errol Spence, even though the fan base will scream out and say that he needs to be more active. Yeah, but you're telling him to be more active and to get paid less money than he believes he's worth, based off of his last fight against Terrence Crawford, where he made north of $20+ million on that fight. So, the PBC clearly can't afford to facilitate a space for their big fighters to make the big fights. That's why we see David Benavidez in Riyadh getting ready to fight Anthony Yarde and not having a fight back in Las Vegas where he'd like to have a fight, because the promotional company and banner that he's under is short on the resources to facilitate a space that makes it worthwhile for David Benavidez or any fighter that they plan on bringing over from the UK. It is what it is. That's just the truth at this point. I mean, months ago, a year or so ago, it was speculation, right? It was unfounded speculation. It was dare I say even hate. It was even hate to speculate in the space of questioning why we weren't seeing the fights, why we weren't seeing the events, and why we weren't seeing the fighters themselves be active in any kind of way. It was speculation as to trying to figure out why Gervonta Tank Davis was so disenchanted with the sport and why he was talking about retirement, why he thought it was all BS on the back end of a Frank Martin fight where he was screaming out hallelujah because he scored a $240 million deal with Amazon and the PBC supposedly to fight 6 or 7 fights. One of those fights being Shakur Stevenson. What changed in between that time period, between the Frank Martin fight and the Lamont Roach fight? We can only speculate, but I'll tell you, at the end of the day, if Shakur Stevenson, was committed to being a champion, unifying belts, who tried to get inside the division and make the unification fight happen at a lightweight division at 135 pounds, who dropped the ball a little bit with the Devin Haney fight, because Devin Haney was there was an opportunity there for Shakur Stevenson, but it was a small window opportunity, and he didn't jump on it. And Devin took his opportunity with Regis Prograis and left the division and let the belts go. Right, so he had to pick up a vacated belt against Edwin De Los Santos. But regardless, a fighter like him who's always pushed for the fights that the fans supposedly quote unquote want to see, but hasn't been able to get those fights done. Barely got that Williams Zepeda fight after the second or third attempt. Finally made that fight happen. Am I going to throw shots at him because he's putting together a fight with Teofimo Lopez at 140 pounds and he doesn't want to campaign in the division? A, because he believes he's a natural 135-pound fighter, feels like that's his division to take over. B, because his brother's also at 140 pounds now leaving the division and he doesn't want to put himself in a position where he's competing with his brother. No, I'm not going to ridicule him for that. I'm not going to ridicule him for that. And this is where the hypocrisy comes from with a lot of the boxing fan base and a lot of the content creation space. It's pathetic. It's absolutely pathetic. Especially on the back end of the humble pie, the crow, or the reality check that a lot of these fans have had to have lately in the past 2 weeks or 7 to 10 days dealing with the announcement of this fight between Gervonta Tank Davis and Jake Paul. Especially on the back end of that, you think there'd be enough humility to stay out the way in a conversation like this. Because you guys made up stories and lied and speculated or whatever you want to call it, and gave a whole lot of pushback, jumped up on a lot of these platforms that challenge content creators on their sources, on their information. You discredited them and called them liars, never came back, no humility to at least apologize for the jacket you put on them. No. There's no integrity. There's no honor involved in a lot of the content that's being created in this space, right? And bringing it full circle to say that the boxing game could use some fans, right? But once again, we're dealing with people who worship men, people who worship promotional companies. And I double down and I say September 13th is an opportunity for a new era of American boxing to be ushered. A new era of American boxing to be ushered into the space, to allow fans to once again become involved and in love with the sport, not just a fighter. There's a fight here where the Terrence Crawford fans will support Terrence Crawford. The Canelo Alvarez fans will support Canelo Alvarez. But the people who have tried to rip this fight down, the people who don't know about the value of this fight will watch this fight and they'll either enjoy it because it'll be a competitive fight, right? And therefore they'll have to enjoy boxing, or they won't watch it at all. It is what it is. Smash the like button as you come in the building. 26, 27, I don't know, somewhat people inside the building. Let's make sure we're hitting the like button, and let's make sure that we're subscribed if we haven't been subscribed yet. Shout out to my brother Ray Davis in the building. Ray, I did send you a link to your email. You can check it if you want to. I don't know where you're at or if you're available or whatever have you, but I did send you an email as well. Talk of SC says, Claymore, you're going to be at the Canelo Crawford fight? Nah. Won't be at the Canelo Crawford fight. I'll be calling the fight though. Inshallah, that'll be exactly where I'll be, is right here calling the fight if I don't have to be out and about, right? Which I shouldn't, but we'll see. You never know what the future holds. But I won't be at the fight, man. It'd be nice to be out there, man. Shout out Ray. Ray said on my way. Okay, cool, brother. Cool. No doubt, man. But it's interesting to watch it happen. It's really interesting to watch these, fanatics. And I'm respecting it. I'm getting to that point where, I'm respecting the coexisting in the same space as grown men who are fans of other men, to the point to where I understand that it's a whole different energy, right? Like this, the purpose of these channels is not for boxing, it's for a fighter, right? And therefore, that being said, just like a Beyonce fan, like a Beyonce channel or any of these other, like, usually it's a feminine thing. Usually it's women who are doing these things, from my understanding. But at the end of the day, the channel is committed and dedicated and staying loyal to the idea of being a fan of one boxer. And I expect them to celebrate and defend that boxer no matter what. I do sometimes have issues or get a little confused with watching them hate on other fighters. But I guess if they're on the other side of the conversation of fighting their favorite fighter, that makes sense as well. I guess I could only expect a Philadelphia Eagle fan to, tear down, a New York Giants fan, right? Or a Cowboy fan, or, however that ends up working out, right? Like, I guess that makes sense, right? The enemy's an enemy. Just it feels a little bit different. And I can tell you that where we are today, where the American boxing space is at today, I can't say that I feel like American boxing has benefited off of this style of commenting on boxing, right? Shout out to All Father 630 says, I think Jake at 6'1" embarrasses Tank. Yeah, I hope not, man. I really hope Jake doesn't embarrass Tank. I hope that Tank, you know, I want him to be healthy and I want him to take care of his family. And I just want him to, you know, honestly, if you're asking me about Tank Davis, the only thing I'm really interested in with him right now is that, you know, he lets go of that WBA title. If you're not going to, you know, defend that title, well, if you're not going to defend, or more importantly, in my opinion, unify or fight any of the fights that we won at 135, then at least allow the division to move forward, right? Allow Lamont Roach to maybe get a fight with a Floyd Schofield, or Schofield and a Lucas Body could fight for a vacant belt. And let's have a champion who's going to be active in the division and defending and chasing unifications to fight the other champions in the division, right? That'd be nice if he would do that. I'm all the way cool with him not wanting to box anymore, and have accepted the idea of that these fights not happening. You know what I mean? I've already accepted that, and I'm cool with that. I would rather it be another way, but I'm not crying over spilled milk. At the end of the day, Tank Davis has the right to pursue his own mission and have his own version of legacy and accomplishment happen. He's the one in the ring taking the shots. He's the one taking the risk to be in that ring. I'm not the one in that ring with him. So if he decides that's not what he's going to do, then I have to respect it, right? It is what it is. Shout out to Fight Sports Talking. The building says, what up, bro? Would love to jump on and catch up a bit. But if you drop for wait, hold on a second. Would love to jump on and catch up for but if you, I'll drop the link for you, Fight Sports. It's just Sunday talk, man. I'm just popping up. This is just a pop-up live. It wasn't really planned, to be honest with you. I'll drop the link for you, brother. I haven't talked to you in a minute, man. Hold on one second. I'll send it right over right now. This link is not for everybody. So if you pull up and I don't necessarily just pull you right up, don't take it personal. Maybe, I mean, a little later, I'll be a little bit more open to it. But, you know, Fight Sports Talk is somebody who I've talked to on boxing a lot, and you know, we haven't talked in a minute. I mean, if you feel like I might let you up, if you're the right person, I ain't gonna lie. You know what I'm saying? I might, but there's a good chance I might not as well, man. Shout out to Michael Lee in the building. Said, what's up, Clay? What's up? Back at you, family. Good to see you in the building and good in health. Salute to my guy, Fight Sports Talk in the building. What's good, kid?
What's up, Clay? Thanks for having me on. Yeah, it's been way too long since I've jumped on. It's just because of the time difference here in New Zealand, and
I know.
Yeah. So, but yeah, thanks for having me on, man. I wasn't sure if you were, you know, doing one of your regular shows where you have a lot of people on, but yeah, thanks for dropping the link. Just for as long as you know you'll have me. You just talking about boxing news.
Oh yeah, man. We just catching up on everything going on in space. Since the last time me and you spoke, there's a lot of things that's happened in the space, right?
Sure.
We're dealing with we're dealing with Gervonta Tank Davis Jake Paul fight that's been announced. I don't believe I've spoken to you since the Shakur Stevenson William Zepeda fight. Obviously certain fights have been announced between Devin Haney and Brian Norman, obviously David Benavidez and Anthony Yarde. I mean, a lot's going on, right? So I mean, we could talk about a bunch of stuff, right? Where you at with it in the boxing space right now, Fight Sport?
Yeah. Well, first of all, what up, Ray? It's good to talk to you again as always. Yeah, I've really said everything I need to about Tank and Jake Paul. It's
okay.
To where there's just, well, I don't know if there's really much point complaining about, you know, because we all know what it is.
Right.
As far as the light heavyweight situation, that I'm very interested in, because I think Benavidez has a chance to live up to his potential. Like I've got a lot of stick for this throughout this year. I think Benavidez beats Bivol, and I'm a huge Bivol fan. Beterbiev, very interesting because of Beterbiev's power. I find it a bit concerning that Bivol has suddenly had back surgery, obviously at a time when the division's really exciting. But with that being said, I don't want to question the man's heart or anything, because he's been pretty active. Benavidez fighting Beterbiev for one of the titles. That is, Benavidez has a lot of critics, but all those critics are going to have to say, you know what, Benavidez has, that's very commendable, because it's, first of all, style-wise, Benavidez is a pressure fighter, and Beterbiev has one-punch knockout power. So, and he's also a pressure fighter. So if that doesn't have fireworks written all over it, I don't know what does. And that is one hell of a fight to, put your unbeaten record on the line for. So, yeah, that division's really exciting. I'm happy that Boots has moved up to 154 because the welterweight division, I just had no interest in him beating up on an ancient Manny Pacquiao or Mario Barrios, who should have never taken that fight to begin with against Pacquiao. So I'm glad he's moving up. I, of course, am it's a little concerning that he has turned down the Ortiz fight for the second time, but all in good time, I guess. And 154 is a Shark Tank, so I can't hate on a guy for taking his time. The guy who I am a bit concerned about, because he seems to be the boogeyman who doesn't even get talked about, and that's Murtazaliev. I mean, this guy can't even get mandatories to fight him. Disappointed that Tim Tszyu is probably going to have to retire early, but that's the fight game. Huge Tim Tszyu fan, but I thought he had a chance last year to be the best in the division, but doesn't always work out the way. Some guys just have to retire early. Some guys go on like Pacquiao. Some guys, and I mean no disrespect when I say this, some guys end up like Riddick Bowe or Benitez, punch drunk early. So sad, but it is what it is. I guess if Devin Haney-Norman, I'm really happy that fight's happening. I think I wanted the Lopez fight, and shame on Lopez for playing everybody. Norman, technically, I can see Devin Haney outpointing him, but Devin Haney looks so scared to death in his last fight that I think this is a very big risk because Norman can punch. He is fast. And if Haney shows up with the lack of confidence he had for the Ramirez fight, I can see this fight going very badly. So I'm very intrigued for that fight.
Yeah, I agree. Salute, Ray. What's good with your family?
Not much, man. Salute Fight Sports Talks. I was trying to set up my screens while you were talking, so I had it on mute.
That's why if you're doing it,
Yeah, that's why I couldn't respond to him. It was on mute. But I love what you said. I do have a question maybe you both can answer, especially when it comes to Benavidez. Are we looking at the Benavidez that's walking into the same era per se as Lennox Lewis, in such a way where Lennox Lewis had some champions where he fought, some good fighters, and then some of the good fighters just ducked them, or as we know with Riddick Bowe. Are we in that situation with the Benavidez where he's just not in a good bunch of fighters? Like he doesn't have like the elite fighters to really give him big name recognition. Like there's some good fighters, but like, he's not going to get the Canelo fight, and Canelo's past his prime. So if he does get that fight, it definitely gets a passing of the torch. It's not going to be nothing significant. Anybody else that you can see in and out his division, he beat. And most of these guys are, like I said, they're either past their prime, they're older, or they're just not at his level. Are we going to see it? Are we seeing the same thing that we see with the Lennox Lewis, where it's just like a bad marketing for him, where he's not going to see a good campaign or have somebody to challenge him? Maybe Morrell, if he gets, after a few fights more, he gets better with the experience growing. But he didn't even look good his last fight. He looked a little shell-shocked of himself. So are we ever going to get that type of fight with Benavidez? Because we're crowning him and giving him all these accolades, and I just think that he's not in good hands. He's just in a division that just doesn't look great. So do you guys think that that's relevant, or do you see anything different from what I say?
I think that he fights who's available and he'll be okay. I don't think there's any issues like that. I think that the reality of it is, if as long as the fights that are there to be made can be made, and which is he's in a great position to do that. I think he's a light heavyweight. You know what I mean? Potentially going up to cruiserweight at some point to fight big fights, but I think there's enough fights up in there. If anything that David Benavidez gets credit for right now, it's not necessarily, we're not looking necessarily at his matchups as much as I think people might think. It's just that he's a fighter who's willing to fight the best, and whoever is the best and whoever's available at that time, he's always pushing to make that fight. So, you got to celebrate him on that. You know what I mean? But I don't know if any thought, maybe in hindsight, at the end of his career, when it's all said and done, maybe we'll look back at it and see, you know what I mean? that but there's fights there to be made. There's up and coming light heavyweights. There's fighters in 168 that'll come up to light heavyweight to make some fights. The Iglesias guy at 168, I'm sure will make some sort of appearance at 175 at some point in time. You've got the people like Ben Whitaker, you know what I mean? Fighters like that who are still working their way up in the division, who will make great fights. And you got enough people there even right now between Anthony Yardy, between Calum. I know they're, Calum's a little bit older, right, and a bit of an older fighter, but also fights there to be made in the cruiserweight division. I think David is in good hands, man. I think he's the best thing and the reason I think he's in good hands is because he made that move, right? He's allowing Turki Al-Sheikh. He's using that resource he has in front of him, called Turki Al-Sheikh, to help facilitate these fights, and that's the best thing he could ever done for himself. I would have thought and been a little bit more disappointed and discouraged about the potential of his career if he would have stayed with that same PBC or nothing mindset that it looked like he was kind of heading down the road of with Samson. But it looks like things have changed and are moving in a great way, man. I love the direction that David Benavidez is going in.
You're getting scolded by your brother there. He ain't get a heads up.
Who's scolding me? What's going on?
Fire frequency.
Oh, what'd he say?
He said he get a heads up, but he also didn't get a notification. So,
Oh, yeah, I put it out there. My bad, bro. I don't know. I should have just called you or sent you a text.
I told him earlier that you was going on at 3, but I didn't know you moved the time. So I guess I guess he moved it before you did. Who knows?
Movie wifey.
Yeah, I think Benavidez's opportunities are fine. I mean, 175, there's no doubt it was incredibly weak. I mean, you had two all-time great light heavyweights in Beterbiev and Bivol, and then just a bunch of guys who couldn't challenge them. Now the division is very interesting. Now I see exactly what you're saying. Is he going to be like Lennox Lewis, who has good fighters but not other prime fighters, like other prime all-time great fighters to test himself against? I think Bivol is still in his prime, so if he gets a chance to fight him, and like I said, I called so much stick for this when I said after the Morrell fight I'd pick Benavidez to beat him in a tough fight, then that's about as great as a win as you could get. Beterbiev, I would say, is kind of, you brought up Lennox Lewis, I'd say he's kind of like Holyfield when Lewis fought him, where Holyfield was old, but in the second fight he showed he wasn't that old. Whereas Beterbiev, I think, like I said, style-wise, even though Beterbiev is a bit older, that is a super dangerous fight for Benavidez. And I don't know if I'd pick Benavidez to win. So as far as the rest of the division, I definitely think after the Kataev fight, Morrell is, we're maybe seeing the limits of Morrell. So we'll see if he goes on to be a top contender. Smith, I think, is an excellent contender. Style-wise, I think Benavidez beats him pretty handily. But in terms of credibility, that's a good fight. There's no one else really at light heavyweight. I mean, the Yard fight I'm not thrilled about, but style-wise, again, that we may see something new from Benavidez because Yard's very strong. And the guy I've had my eye on is Alberto Ramirez. He's an undefeated Venezuelan fighter.
Yeah.
Technically, he doesn't do anything that impressive, but he's a unit. He's a physical specimen. He's undefeated and he hasn't made much money. So that equals hunger. And style-wise, because again, Benavidez is a pressure fighter, that could be very interesting. Right. So I think I see what you're saying, Ray. There isn't, if Benavidez stays at light heavyweight, is he going to have the big legacy fights? We don't know. Maybe he does need to move up to cruiserweight, although cruiserweight is getting very, very weak right now.
Yeah,
so
it's like the same thing as he moves up.
Yeah, like I've really got no interest, at least right now. I've seen him fight Gilberto Ramirez because one, Ramirez is good, but his resume is a bit. It's a little bit overhyped for me because he's got a good resume in terms of champions, but none of those champions are that good. And he's doing everything he can to not fight Opataya. So I really don't have too much interest in that fight. So light heavyweight, I think I would like to see him stay there. And, right. I think, we can have this conversation next year, but right now he's still got Bivol and Beterbiev he's still got Bivol and Beterbiev on the line, and those are fantastic legacy fights.
Can we see anybody moving up from 168? And Billy Simpson, we have Eubanks. I mean, I doubt he's going to move up, but you got Pacheco.
I think he's going to move up. I think
any of those guys.
Listen, man, is anybody going up to the light heavyweight division? You never know, right? But I mean,
Right.
168 is also making its return, right? It's dealing with the Canelo Alvarez situation and waiting to see what's going to happen with those belts. But 168 is also developing its own ecosystem of things happening up there. You know, Hamza Shiraz just getting into the division. I mean, maybe you might see, you know, one of these older fighters who are making their way out of there. Maybe Edgar Berlanga may just go up to 175.
I think he'll be better at 175. Believe it or not, I think that's where he would shine at. That would be a good fight. Just because styles make fights, and even though he talks a lot of shit, they both talk shit. It's actually funny. They're very, very entertaining and outside the ring. That would be a good matchup. Believe it or not, a lot of people probably would overwhelmingly take Benavidez because of the style that they see Benavidez and the credibility they give him. But I think Edgar Berlanga would be the fight for Benavidez. I think styles make fights, and I think we can see Berlanga giving him a little bit of problem at 175. Believe it or not, I didn't think about that.
I mean, all those things are possible, you know what I mean? But I think, like, you know, Fight Sports Talk was talking a little bit, man. Maybe towards the end of next year, we'll start looking at that a little bit more closely and see that things develop. But I think David has his plate nice, and, you know, I think he has a good plate of food that he's dealing with for the next year and some change. You know what I'm saying? For the next year or so in the light heavyweight division, I think it'll be okay.
Listen, no doubt. Listen, I love the fact that people
and who knows, he may go to the heavyweight division too, you know, in another year.
He can. I mean, he walks around 250, so he definitely can make heavyweight. I just don't know if his punch resistance there. Especially
he walks around at 250 pounds, bro.
Benavidez, yeah, big guy.
Okay,
big guy. He said he was heavy. He said he's always been a big kid. And he does lose a lot of weight after fights. I mean, gain a lot of weight after fights. Listen, Ryan said he was 170 and didn't look 170 in that chair. I'm sorry. He hesitated to say it too. If you actually pay attention, he's like, "Yeah, I'm 170. Yeah, okay, yeah. You were 170. Walk around, bro. You sitting there looking like you straight sitting out in the trailer park drinking a bunch of Keystone Lights. Like, bro, we good. I'm sorry."
Yeah.
But
so what do you guys think about Shakur Stevenson's little statement that he made? And the space seems to be a little, you know, everybody's trying to focus the energy away from. I'm noticing, I don't know. I think people are trying to focus away from the Gervonta Tank Davis Jake Paul situation. They're trying to turn Shakur into this guy who's making crazy fights. But I don't see what's crazy about the Teofimo fight, and I don't care that he's going to. I mean, do you guys know what the big story is? What the issue is with Shakur fighting Teo?
Yeah, I heard about it. I don't think that's an issue, man. I really don't. I don't even see why anybody would even care. Listen, the guy's doing something that he believes is great. No one cared when Floyd moved up and down in weight, took on different fighters in welterweight division, grabbed belts and dropped them. No one cared.
100%.
No one cared. But the fact is, this guy says he's going to do it because he doesn't want to get involved in a certain fight, which is okay. It's his choice not to fight somebody he cares about. And if he chooses not to do so, it's his business, his prerogative. Who cares? Like, you guys are putting too much weight on wanting to see these guys fight each other. And I think what happens with Shakur and Keyshawn is if they fight, they fight. Who cares? That's their thing. But if they don't want to fight each other, you can't force something. You can't force the hand on these guys. They're not going to do it. You know what I mean? You try to turn them against each other with the Hitchens thing, and it's a lot of things, dude. They already said they're not fighting. I don't know why we keep pressing it. Bottom line, you know what we should be asking? Why Tank said he was on the hit list, and then Tank said, "Who is this guy?" That's what you should be pressing. So, I mean, if you're going to call somebody out for wanting to fight, Shakur wanted to fight Tank. Tank said he wanted to fight Shakur, but when that name came about, he asked who he was and what has he done. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, I think if we're gonna, hold court, that's I heard today, that this fight was more diabolical than the Tank Jake Paul fight. And that's where it came. That's when I think I found a little frustration. I'm like, really?
Bro.
Shakur fighting Teofimo and vacating the belt and coming back to 135 is worse than Tank going to fight Jake Paul.
Nonsense.
It's ridiculous. You know, the stuff that the thoughts that people put together in their minds and how they it's crazy. You know what I mean? But the reality is,
I didn't hear that one, Clay, by the way. So I'm pretty sure I know who said it.
Yeah.
I did. Fight Sports argues with this guy almost like every week, but I'm pretty sure that's who said it. Not sure for a fact, but
which guy, Ray?
I'm not saying nobody's name.
We're not saying no names.
I'm not giving nobody credibility.
Yeah, I've heard it.
Well,
go ahead, Fight Swords.
Well, I promised myself I was not going to engage with Tank fans much because the deflection from Tank's decisions, including the Tank fans who I do like you just said, Clay, it's off the freaking chart. I'm just like, I'm not going to play this. I'm not going to play this game. I'm not going to play this game of deflection. So my thoughts is, okay, I'm not crazy about that. I'm not crazy about champions. I don't think it makes sense for Shakur to move up and then move back down. Now, I don't actually think he's serious about that. This is what Tank fans have said to me about that, saying why they believe Lomachenko ducked Tank instead of the other way around.
Oh, yeah.
Because Loma said, I'll move up to lightweight, then I'll come back down to super feather. And they say, well, he didn't do that, so clearly Loma ducked the fight. I'm like, no, he didn't. That's just talk. But generally, I do prefer fighters to stay in their own divisions. Now, I feel like the fight to make is Tszyu versus Hitchens. But with that being said, Hitchens is with Eddie Hearn on his own with Turkey, and Tszyu has just pissed off Turkey Al-Sheikh as well as everybody else. So I don't think that fight's realistic. But again, with that being said, I would like to see Tszyu, if possible, fight the likes of Matias or Barboza. I mean, super lightweight right now is stacked. So if it's possible to make the Russell fight or Barboza or Puello, etc., I would love to see that. And I know the comments are probably going to disagree with me, but I wouldn't actually mind seeing Shakur Stevenson fight Muratalla. I know Muratalla is not a name, but this is just my personal preference. Plus, there is a part of me, okay, I'm not sure how good Shakur's going to do at 140 because his hands were brittle a few fights ago. Moving up, fighting bigger guys, I don't think his hands are going to be any stronger. So I don't want to see Tszyu, after the shenanigans Tszyu pulled with the Devin Haney fight, I don't want to see him get a softer touch against a guy who's got brittle hands. Mm-hmm. That's just my personal preference.
That's cool. By the way, I think Barboza and Tszyu already fought.
Barboza and who?
Tszyu.
Yeah, they fought in Fatal Fury.
Right. But yeah. I mean, if it's a rematch, you see fit. I mean, hey, I'm all for it.
Fight Sports has to see Tszyu fight Arnold Barboza?
Yeah, he said Barboza or he might have been Barboza, but was it Barboza? The old man? I don't know. Maybe he met him. I don't know. I don't want to speak for him.
Oh no, sorry, he fought Barboza Jr. Oh my god, did I really? Sorry, that was a complete slip of the tongue. I meant to say Puello.
Okay. Because you said you said Matias and Barboza, and I was like, he fought Barboza.
My God, but sorry guys, that was a slip of the tongue. My bad.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I
mean, I think he needs to rematch Sandor Martin. I think he deserves another shot.
Yeah, but Tio's looking for.
Of course he is.
There's a balance of the thing with Tio is he's pricing himself out of big fights. Like big fights are they're offering him money, but he wants even more money than that. And I think with Tio, it's a sad thing because I don't know. I'm trying to stay quiet on Tio just to see how it all develops because At the same time, Turki Al-Sheikh says he's not dealing with Teo. Then you see Teo come out with you see Undisputed, which is a Riyadh season game, right? That's completely affiliated with Ring Magazine with Turki Al-Sheikh, and you see they gave him a package. They gave him he has a pack on that game now. You know what I'm saying? It's a takeover pack, and he's the one on there, and there's some fighters that's on there with him inside of his pack. He's going to get good money for that. That's something that's been afforded to him from the Saudi side of the conversation. So Turkey's made his statements about not dealing with him, but then you see something like that develop. Also hearing that Teofimo is maybe a free agent right now, that he's not even dealing with Top Rank anymore like that. So is he just stalling, waiting for a big deal to come that makes sense? I don't know. I think there's a lot of possibilities. I don't know what's going on with this whole entire Turkey situation, but I think if Shakur's pushing for it, I wouldn't be surprised if he's not getting some confirmation or something, you know what I'm saying, to allow him to feel confident about that. The worst case scenario, of course, being the Lamont Roach fight. That'll probably be the fight that he picks up and gets put together if the Shakur Stevenson, Teofimo Lopez jump off doesn't develop. But I just don't know what's going on with Teofimo. But I know he's priced himself out of some opportunities, obviously, Devin Haney being one of them. And then, now maybe the Shakur Stevenson situation,
Yeah.
I'll just say this about Teo, because I do not say this lightly. I'm done with him. And when I say I'm done, I mean I'm not even going to put my brain cells to work to think about, what should Teofimo do? And here's why. And I'll make this quick, guys, because nobody wants to hear a negative rant. But after Teo fought Barboza and everybody, like a lot of people, I was saying that was the best performance I've seen since the
Josh,
along with the Josh Taylor and Loma, obviously best performance I've seen. So I was hyped up, and I went on multiple shows and I said the fight to make is Teofimo versus Devin Haney, and the amount of crap I had to deal with from these Teofimo fans saying, "Oh, what you think Devin Haney, the scared little boy, is going to give Teo?" Like, they were giving me so much stick. People were calling me a Devin Haney fanboy, and I don't even like the Haneys that much. I got nothing against them, but I'm not a fan. I'm very open about fighters I am a huge fan of. Devin Haney's not one of them. But and then the fight got scheduled, and these same people were just cussing me out. I did not upload this to my channel. I was like, I'm not going to play this stupid game. And then Teo pulls the duck of the these guys were even defending Teo ducking the fight. They were saying, when Teo had that rant about Turkey, and they said, what if Turkey's not giving Teo what he wants? I'm like, I wanted to punch my laptop screen. I was like, Teo is very clearly being a diva. He's being difficult, and you idiots are allowing this. You're enabling this. You're saying, yes, Teo, be a diva, make things difficult for people. And I was just so sick of it. And then he ducks the fight, and all these people go silent, and none of them apologize to me for it. And some of these guys are big channels, but I'm not going to give them clout. The much bigger channels than me, but I'm not going to give them credit. This is why I didn't do videos on this. So get to the point. Teo played everybody. His fans defended it. I know from experience they defended him, and he doesn't deserve us to even talk about him in this light. Like, I don't give a crap what Teo does next in terms of until he, like, okay, is he a free agent? Has he, is he going to have opportunities with other other promotions that have other champions? Maybe. But I don't even know if he wants to fight these other champions. Like, because, and this is what I'll just end it with. You sign with the biggest money man in boxing. You have a really good performance. And because that card sucked, unfortunately, you actually had the standout performance of the card. So you literally had the opportunity of opportunities to make big money, have big fights, fight a guy who I think is extremely vulnerable in Devin Haney right now, and you pulled the biggest duck move of this year so far. Like, it's just, these are the kind of, I know I said I'll end on this. This truly is the last point, guys. When Riddick Bowe threw his belt into the trash, the way he was able to get away with it on HBO, and he wasn't condemned for it, for fighting a massive cherry picking Jesse Ferguson. The reason why he wasn't condemned for it is because his promoter defended him, and the American fans enabled him. Like, they allowed it. Let's not give Teo the same kind of pass because we're just going to keep getting this nonsense.
Yeah. I think, and I agree with you 100% on this Teofimo situation, and I think it's a legitimate question to ask if he even wants to make these fights. There was a point in time where I thought Teofimo wanted to make the fights, but he just wasn't making enough money. He thought it was worth more money. But even when he's working with a Turki Al Sheikh who's giving him the biggest paydays, and let's be honest, this on the back end of Teofimo going on shows and openly admitting that he's never even made over $1 million, right? So if a promoter or an investor is offering you $5-6 million, $7 million to make a fight, what do you look like saying that you deserve more money than that? I had a thought on Teofimo before, and I said to myself, is Teofimo pricing himself out of his out of the best years of his boxing career, right? By the time he pulls his head out his tail, will he be the same fighter he was? Because he's missing a window of Teo's spent the last 2 years, 2+ years, not fighting, or when he makes a fight, it's Steve Claggett, or it's or he's looking bad against a Jermaine Ortiz, or he's looking bad against a Sandro Martin, or he's looking good against a Josh Taylor who's probably stayed in Division I fight too long. He's wasting a lot of time trying to capitalize off of what he felt like he's earned off of the back end of that Vasily Lomachenko fight. And the years are just going by. You're just getting older. You're not getting younger. And every time there's a big fight on the table for you to get done, you're finding a way not to be in the fight and turning it into a, hey, man, they're going to have to pay me or I'm not going to fight. And boxing is moving forward. Fans like yourself, Fight Sports Talk, are communicating very openly that they're done with that energy, right? Because they got other places to focus their energy. Boxing is growing and getting bigger, and fights are happening all over the world that people want to see. And Teofimo is allowing the train to pass him by from the outside looking in, at least.
But also, if I could just add one thing to that.
Oh, wait, hold on one moment. Anthony Manzano, 3551 in the building. Salute, man. Welcome to the channel, brother. I appreciate you being here, man. Thank you, man. Go ahead.
Yeah, just to add, do you want to read out this comment as well?
Sure. It says, Claymore, let's blame Eddie for overpaying Teo in an overinflated purse that he really didn't earn, so he conditioned to think he's worth $10 million. But the reality is, though, Anthony, is that he doesn't feel like he was paid well. He's I'm assuming you're talking about the George Kambosos fight. No, I mean, is that the fight you're talking about, the George Kambosos fight? Or because that's the only one I know Eddie was involved in, right? With Teofimo. Am I bugging? Was he involved in another one, guys?
No, that's it.
But also, let's not forget the reason Eddie promoted the Kambosos fight is because Triller kept failing. So I mean, he didn't. And I thought what he paid for that fight was pretty fair.
Josh Taylor. Okay. He overpaid him in that Josh Taylor fight. Okay.
No, and
on Top Rank.
Yeah, Josh Taylor was always promoted by Bob Arum, Anthony. So I'm not sure.
That's what
yeah. But just the one thing I was going to add to that, well, just quickly something for Anthony's comment. And this is again where this is where I'm going to say it. This is not something that jumped up spontaneously. The seeds were planted there very early on by Teo because he beats Loma. And look, Lomachenko, he's not just one of my favorite fighters now. He's in my top 5 favorites ever. But Teo looked amazing that fight. And I didn't like it, but I loved his performance. And he says in the post-fight press conference, everybody wants to be money made, but you got to be Pretty Boy Floyd first. You got to earn the right to make them millions. And I had so much excitement after that. I thought, wow, here is a guy who's going to take on all comers, who's going to earn his strive, etc., etc. Then a couple of months later, he says to Eddie Hearn, yeah, I'll fight Devin Haney, but you better pay me $10 million. And I'm like, what? Yeah. What are you talking about, homeboy? And fast forward to now, so Eddie Hearn had nothing to do with this. This is in Teofimo's head. But the thing I wanted to add to your point, Clay, is that, and this is another reason why I'm done with Teo, is that, and we just have to accept this now, he's not going to change, he's not going to improve as a fighter, and he's also not going to think critically and objectively about situations, and he's not going to have objective, critical thinkers around him. He's going to have yes men. because when he looked really bad against Nakatani, he won the fight, but boy, did he look vulnerable. He had a bunch of excuses afterwards. Fast forward a bit, he got his head smashed in by Kambosos. We all remember the excuses after that. Then he looks really, really vulnerable against Sandor Martin. And then fast forward again, the same thing happens, against Jermaine Ortiz. And I did do videos on this, but my channel was only a week old, so nobody saw them. That was the same week he was calling out Terence Crawford, the Jermaine Ortiz fight. And I was just saying, look, this is like the greatest disconnect in the world. You look vulnerable as hell against Jermaine Ortiz, one-dimensional as crap, and you're calling out pound for pound top 5 fighter Terence Crawford. Are you crazy? Do you think Terence Crawford's going to stand and trade with you? Like, you're not living in reality, sir. And he's still not. My point is, he's still not living in reality. His delusions just keep getting worse and worse. So, and on top of that, as I just mentioned, one of the worst. We hear it all the time. Guys will, if you pay them enough money, they'll get into the ring. Right. Teofimo has proven that to be false, because Turki Al-Sheikh nobody pays more than Turki Al-Sheikh, and Teofimo still won't get into the ring. And on top of that, he didn't even try to make things work. He publicly caused a huge stink about it when he knew that was going to get. You don't publicly trash your promoter, a promoter or money man like that. So this is just a long-winded way of saying a reason why I feel like we all need to wash our hands of Teo until he gives us a reason to think otherwise, is because his delusions and his self-obsessed and his just obsession with thinking that he's more than he is, it's got him worse over time, and it's going to keep getting worse.
Yeah, I think that that Teofimo is he's a topic worthwhile like studying to a certain degree, because at points, even with what you're describing right now, it looks like he's like purposely sabotaging his career. He's asking for things that aren't realistic, things that you can't believe that he thinks he's going to get. So it almost seems as a smoke screen or smoke mirror for him to avoid what's directly in front of him. And what's always been directly in front of Teofimo is right now, for example, 140-pound weight class division. He did it at 135, didn't want to fight Devin there. Comes up to 140, doesn't want to fight Devin there. He's not interested in unifying with a Gary Antoine Russell. He wasn't interested in unifying with Sabriel Matias when he was an IBF champion. He doesn't seem interested in doing too much at all inside of 140 pounds, focuses his energy completely outside the division, but still holds a WBO and a lineal championship in that division. He calls out Jaron Ennis at 147. All these fighters who have no interest at all in fighting him fight. Not only do they have no interest in fighting him, but they've expressed interest in fighting other people, right? Like Jaron Ennis was expressing interest in fighting Brian Norman at one point in time, or going up to 154 after unifying. He expressed an interest in becoming an undisputed champion and unifying the division. No interest in fighting Teofimo Lopez. Teofimo at one point in time, supposedly in negotiations, and this is confirmed by Bob Arum as well, and the Normans, that there was a fight there possibly for him to make against Brian Norman Jr. to leverage his WBO title, which he wasn't defending at 140, at 147. And he never took advantage of that opportunity either. But he called out Terence Crawford, who was completely campaigning the whole time, had the money behind him and the financing of Turki Al-Sheikh behind him to make a fight happen with Canelo Alvarez. So we know that he had no intentions on fighting you, but you went ahead and held up your career to make it look like you were campaigning for these big fights that nobody believed was ever going to happen. The closest fight that ever came to happening for him would have been Jaron Ennis, where Turki actually got behind him on that and was like, all right, well, I'll make that fight happen on the back end if you beat Arnold Barbosa. But once again, people try to call Jaron Ennis a duck for not taking that fight. I find that hard to believe. I think that's a ridiculous jacket to put on Jaron Ennis, because why? Teo brings absolutely nothing to the table for Jaron Ennis. And no, although you may say it's legacy to him to have a fighter who's a multiple division weight class champion or unified champion, some call it undisputed champion at 135, it still doesn't help him out as a 147-pound champion who has an email belt around his waist at the time. He had way bigger fish to fry at that time in that division. And if that division wasn't going to give him the fish to fry, everybody was campaigning to see Jaron Ennis move up to 154. When did it become a big fight that we all wanted to see him fight Teofimo? It was just ridiculous when that became like the point. Oh, he's ducking him, bro. We were all just trying to see him go to 154. The only reason we're accepting him staying at 147 is because he's trying to unify and he's getting fights. Fights to unify. When did him fighting Teofimo become? Oh, now he's ducking Teofimo, 140-pound fighter, right? Who's coming off lackluster performances against Steve Claggett and Jermaine Ortiz. Stop it.
Right.
Stop it.
And just to tap into that, Clay, just mention this. He wanted to fight him at 47. Didn't want to fight Ryan at 47. Didn't want to fight Devin at 147. He wanted all these fights at 140, like a catch weight. So that was even crazier. Even when he wanted to fight Bud, it was at 47. But all these other guys he wanted to fight that came up from 140, he wanted to fight him at a catch weight, which shows that Teal was never serious about it. Teal was only looking for fame and clout in his own eyes. And a lot of people went past that, and it, of course, because of it's not their favorite fighter, or it's a fighter that they don't agree with, or it's some reason that they can throw shade at a star in the making. It's another way of saying it. Now, would it have been a good fight? Absolutely. Who wouldn't want to see a fight like that? You know, you got two active fighters that can move in the pocket and avoid getting hit. That would have been a great combative fight. Do I think Teal would have won? No, because Teal, I think, is so much smaller than Jaron Boots Ennis, and I don't think he can withstand the power, and he has no power to give back in his shot. So, therefore, I can see all day that's just being a bad matchup. I think Teal knew that. I think Teal was just talking just to see how far that the bag will follow him and who will make that fight. But other than that, man, that was the most unnecessary documentary of call outs that I've ever heard, that people call it someone else a duck for someone blowing smoke. What they say? Oh, go call his bluff. What do you need to call somebody's bluff for that you can clearly see he's bluffing? He's trying to get in position. But you guys are so adamant about trying to prove people right and big people up and knock people down. That's not your favorite fighter. That's what happens. You start putting that pressure on other people.
Yeah, I mean, in like Fight Sports is saying, I mean, I'm like on the same page with him as far as washing my hands of the Teofimo.
I don't even talk about the kid.
I mean, I talk about it because I think it's an interesting story, like to watch a fighter just waste his career away and just watch him do all these cringe things and watch it add up to nothing. I think history is going to really I think history will be very much like what happened with this guy who had so much promise, who could have been involved in so many bigger fights, and was spinning his wheels inside of the politics of boxing, the mud called the politics of boxing, and just before he knew it, he blinked his eyes and he was 40 years old or 36 years old or, you know, some odd, crazy age and missed out on legacy fights. Allowed fighters to move past him, allowed Devin Haney to move forward and do whatever he's going to do with his career. Shakur Stevenson move forward, do what he's doing with his career. Tank come in and out and leave, and all these different things happen, and he just sits still. And before you know it, he's in the ring with an Abdullah Mason. He's in the ring with a Xander Zayas trying to do some crazy super fight. He's getting embarrassed and clipped by some fighter he shouldn't be in the ring with because of desperation and because of how he carried himself in his prime years.
Right.
I speak on this from the outside looking in, and I look forward to watching Teo prove us wrong and see him make a big fight and get the big payday that he's been looking forward to get. And maybe we can understand that is deeper than rap, that he was actually working on something big and we were just not seeing it. But I just don't see it manifesting into anything in real time. I don't see these moves adding up to anything that's going to turn into, you know, an accomplishment.
And could I comment on that? Could I comment on what you just said, Clay?
Mm-hmm.
You're talking about, you know, you hope he gets a big money fight and, you know, proves us wrong, big fight, etc. The money fight was there. It was with Devin Haney, and he did. And again, it wasn't just that he ducked it. It's the way that he did it was just atrocious. Multiple times, but it was right there. The money was there. The fight was there. The payment. The guy who pays the big money is there. Everything was there. The future. If you're so confident you can knock out this chinny poor man's Mayweather, as people say, then do it, and the next fight will be even more, will be even bigger. You'll get more money for that, and he didn't do it. So that's why this is just why I've lost complete faith in him. And what you said, Ray, about the Boots fight. This is another thing that the TO fans really hounded me for. Of course, it would have been a good fight, but the thing is, and I remember seeing this because I was one of the people calling out TO's hypocrisy after the Jermaine Ortiz fight. People were saying, "Well, you didn't win that fight, so you should fight Keyshawn Davis." And a lot of people were saying, "Well, Keyshawn's a lightweight and he hasn't even proven himself yet. He hasn't fought at 140." And I was like, "All true, but you compare that to the Boots fight. It's like, why was Keyshawn undeserving of a fight against you when you didn't even look good? And you should be fighting Boots Ennis, who just unified it at welterweight." It's like, and like you said, are you going to be fighting the other contenders at welterweight? No. And then that was the excuse his fans threw out for saying why Devin Haney doesn't deserve him. It's like, just, it never ends with these guys. Yeah, I've got nothing more really to say about T.O.
No. I mean, the T.O. conversation is an interesting week to week conversation just to kind of watch what he does. And like I said, he's more of a scientific experiment at this point in boxing, right? Like he's more of a, what I mean? You're watching him throw spaghetti at the wall and trying to see what's going to stick, but nothing is sticking. I don't know if it's a type of paint on the wall or whatever, but it's like there's nothing sticking on the wall except for a little spaghetti sauce maybe. But as far as the noodles, it just hasn't hit yet. Shout out to Anthony Manzano, says Claymore, was the rumor true that Lopez was trying to negotiate a fight for an undisputed fight with Matias before he lost his title, Liam Pearl? Well, I mean, a unification, maybe, I don't know. I'll tell you this when it comes to the Sabriel Matias conversation. So Teofimo did play and that's another thing, strategically, right? Sabriel Matias comes off of a fight. I'm trying to remember the fight he had just come off of, and he got the victory, but he hurt his hand.
The other guy from Kazakhstan. He's from Kazakhstan. The guy he beat.
Was it Ergachev?
Yes.
Was it? Okay. So he comes off the back end of that fight, a great fight, by the way. He got hands put on him in that fight, by the way, but he showed he had a great chin and ended up stopping Ergachev. But ultimately, Teofimo tried to make a fight happen with him. This is around the Jermaine Ortiz fight time, right? I believe. Am I right? Was it around the Jermaine Ortiz time? He wanted the fight to be in February, right? He wanted to be around the Super Bowl or something like that.
Right.
And so Sabriel says, "Yo, give me a month," right? He says, "My hands are healing. Instead of doing the fight in February, let's do it end of March, beginning of April." And Teo goes, "No, I want to fight that football weekend." He wants to take advantage of that and pack a stadium out. I let it slide because I said, okay, Super Bowl weekend, I kind of get it. You want to make a big fight. He wants to make a big show. He's trying to raise his market value and his brand up. I let it slide, right? But ultimately, when Sabriel Matias went ahead and defended his title, when he went ahead and I think at that time he made the fight with Liam Powell, right? That's what ended up happening.
Yeah, it was scheduled. He didn't. Yeah.
He made the fight happen with Liam Powell.
He caught up Theo first.
Right. Then he lost that fight. We saw him lose that fight in Puerto Rico. And then he went ahead and he won an eliminator, right? And then when I saw Bob Arum tried to make the fight happen between him and Teofimo, and I saw Teofimo move on it, I realized, nah, bro, you don't want to fight Sabriel. Because if you wanted to fight Sabriel then, why aren't you going to fight him now? Then he came out with a story that it was supposed to be a pay-per-view fight. He wanted a big pay-per-view fight, this, that, and the other. Once again, pricing himself out. He goes on a campaign. He goes on It Is What It Is with Cameron and Mays, and he tells everybody he's never made over $1 million. And you coming to find out these things. And I'm thinking he's made over $1 million, right? But at the end of the day, Teofimo always finds a way to wiggle his way out of these kind of fights. It always ends up developing that way when it's all said and done. In the beginning, the talk is, he wants to fight the best. But when it comes time for the fight to be made, it doesn't manifest into a fight. Unless you're talking about Jerron Boots Ennis and Terrence Bud Crawford, where those guys were never interested in fighting him. Jerron Ennis never even said that man's name. And Terrence was like almost smacked that dude in Riyadh, right? Like, had to confront this dude, like, why are you talking crazy about me? End up putting a finger in that dude's forehead, right? End up really having to check him and like, yo, bro, get out of here, bro. Get out, walk that way. Walk that way. Nobody's studying you. A bugaboo, bro. I'm chasing Canelo Alvarez. What in the world are you talking about? What in the world would make me fight you? I'm about to fight Canelo Alvarez. I'm about to make north of $50 million. Go somewhere, please. Tia always finds his way out of these situations. It is what it is. And I want to respond to one more thing I saw here. Let me find it. Hustle Man says, let's see here. Hustle Man, what did you say here? I want to respond because you wanted to comment on Jerron Boots Ennis making the biggest amount of money. Right here. Said Teo would have been the most money and the best fighter on Boots' resume simultaneously. Brother, when you're a fighter like Jerron Boots Ennis, your biggest payday is in your future. Jerron Boots Ennis gambling on himself as he should because he's a exciting fighter. He's a future superstar, and his biggest fights and his biggest bags will be at 154, and Turki Al-Sheikh will be paying him his money when he makes these big fights. Teofimo would have been his biggest fight and biggest payday at that moment, but at that moment, Jerron Ennis made it clear that money wasn't the issue. We're talking about a man who gave away money out of his purse to make a fight with Sanionis in order to become a unified champion. He was not concerned with money. People have to learn to accept a fighter's choice on where he's at in his journey. You understand what I'm saying? When a fighter tells you that the money's not that important right now, that the legacy is, you can't force him or clown him and turn him into a joke because you feel like it should be prize fighting. The man said what he wants to do and what he plans on doing. Any fighter who puts their eggs in the basket of getting that man off that plan to fight them because they're making money is delusional and lying to themselves. Teofimo had no reason outside of Turki Al-Sheikh saying, I'll try to make that fight happen, I'll finance it happening, to believing that Jerron Ennis or Terrence Crawford would ever fight them. Any real fighter who really is trying to make the biggest fight available would be like, those guys don't want to fight me, let me make the next best thing. This man sat there and pushed a narrative that had no real positive ending for him. As an outsider looking in and watching him do this, I knew the whole time he was not getting those fights. And I'm outside looking in. So how could somebody on the ground not see the game being played out? No, there's an argument there to say that Teofimo wasn't trying to make no real fights. And the only fights he was trying to make was the fights where he was in real danger and he could make north of $10 million. Mm-hmm. He was anticipating. There's an argument there to say that Teofimo is anticipating a loss, that he's scared. Why aren't you fighting the champions in your division? Why aren't you unifying at 140 pounds? Why aren't you making those fights and building your brand up the right way? You're a young fighter. Why aren't you moving that direction? Why aren't you taking a Devin Haney fight when the money's there on the table to take that fight? But why are you so gung-ho to push on fights that are nowhere near being made? And then you try to convince the fans that now the onus becomes on Jerron Boots Ennis, who has absolutely no real reason when it comes to legacy to fight Teofimo. And like little sheep, we follow that. We allow this dude to play mind games with, well, not with us, with you guys, play mind games with you guys. And now you guys are actually calling Jerron Ennis the duck to Teofimo? Bruh, stop it, man. You got to do better.
And real quick, I just want to say, like, even if you listen to what Bob Arum said about the whole situation, Bob Arum explained to you that this guy is just out of his mind and he's not really trying to make the fights. He's offering them fights and he just keeps turning down fights. Reason why they kind of are breaking up. So Bob Arum put this in an interview about Teofimo Lopez, and while he said, you know, he still has a 1-fight deal with Top Rank and he's going to have to honor that fight, or he's going to have to pay us for it, or whatever the case may be. So you guys have to listen not only to the people in boxing altogether, but you got to also listen to what Bob Arum says. Punch Drunk, another salute, Punch, another great what you say? Did Turkey call out Boots versus Teofimo?
Punch, what's up, family? Yeah, let me see here. Go ahead, read it.
Yeah, I did. Did Turkey call out Boots versus Teofimo? Yes or no? Salute.
Salute to you, Punch. Yes. And Punch. You and Teofimo were the only people who believed that fight was going to happen. I knew Jerron wasn't going to fight Teofimo. I knew it because it didn't make sense. If we're going to ignore Jerron Boots Ennis in this process and we're going to turn this into just Turkey calling out for it, therefore it's supposed to happen, then fine. But if we're going to acknowledge Jerome Boots Ennis' stance at what he was doing at 147 pounds, why would Teofimo gamble? Why would Teofimo gamble on that fight happening or be shocked when it didn't happen and then turn away from the Devin Haney fight? Let's be honest. It's not realistic, man. And the thing about it is, it's still at this moment hasn't developed into anything positive for that man. And he's just aging like milk in a minute. Like right now, he's still a good fighter that can make some big fights. He's still there to do it, and I hope it works out. But none of these moves, none of all those antics, none of all the narratives he's been pushing, none of the support that you guys have been giving him has manifested into a fight for this man yet. The closest thing he's been able to make happen was a Fatal Fury fight against Arnold Barboza, where I'm assuming he made a decent amount of money. Outside of that, he's been spinning his wheels in the politics of boxing, in the mud called the politics of boxing, and he's been playing that game in a bad way. It has not worked out for him. So yes, if we want to play the game of technically, okay, this is what Turkey Al-Sheikh said he would try to. Turkey says, of course, I'm sure Turkey was willing to make that fight happen. The same way Turkey was trying to make the fight happen between Boots and Virgil Ortiz. But as Boots showed there and showed again with Teofimo, he's not going to be bullied into doing something he doesn't want to do. And Boots himself had never shown no interest in fighting Teo. And that's who Teo should have been more. His ears should have been more open to that. The same thing with Terrence Crawford. The idea that he's going to force these guys into a fight because he's going to bait them and say racist things or, call them, I don't know, all the games. It doesn't work. It hasn't worked. Like I said earlier in the conversation, I'm looking forward to him showing me that it works so I could be like, hindsight shows that all that crap he was doing, it added up to something. But I ain't seen it yet. Punch says, yet the most important investor in boxing called it out and offer was on the table, like Ern said there was. So it was not unrealistic.
Can I comment on this?
It wasn't unrealistic. It could happen, but I think the probability wasn't in Teofimo's favor of it happening. And I'm saying off the strength of waiting, off the strength of not making other fights, off the strength of not moving along with your career and being an active fighter. A fighter like Teofimo Lopez, who likes to box, move around, work on his rhythm. He's a freestyle kind of fighter who doesn't even approach a fight with too much strategy, a little bit of strategy, but really puts a lot of the onus of the direction the fight's going to go in on his athletic ability, his ability to react. And those fighters need to be active. Those fighters sit outside the ring too long and they jump in the ring and they're off rhythm and they get clipped. And I'm sorry to say for your Punch, because I know that's your guy, but if you don't get in that ring and start getting active soon, I think your heart's going to get broken in the next year or two. I think he's going to get caught. I think all of this is adding up to inactivity as far as I'm concerned. And I think that's dangerous for a fighter like Teofimo. I think all this thing going on with Teofimo Lopez, you know what it adds up to? One word: inactivity. That's what it turns into at the end of the day. Right, wrong, in between, justified, unjustified, correct, incorrect, valid, invalid, honorable, dishonorable, full of integrity, zero integrity. All those things, that's all cute and adorable. But you know what it all adds up to at the end of the day for me, Punch? Inactivity. No fight being made.
Yeah. That's key. I'll let you touch in on it. And another thing I just want to say is, it doesn't need to be defended. I mean, every fighter is due to their criticism, and he's being criticized for the things that he's done. These are all valid points. Yes, there are things that are going to the positive of what Teo has tried to do, or not even the positive, but just to say has went out there and went.
There's a link if you feel like coming up. Right. I know you might not come up though, but I just put it there if you feel like it.
But this is no disrespect or slight to Teo. This is just the things that are really happening in real time. So. No one's trying to kick his back in. We're just saying what's took place in his recent career and the things that he's doing that are unjust to the sport and the excuses he's making. There's no need to really defend the situation. I mean, these are all things that really happen. But
it can be defended, right? Like
no, I know.
I don't want to defend it. I don't care to defend it because I don't think it's defendable. But I get the idea of. I get the idea of how great it would have been of Teofimo to have made those fights happen.
Right.
How I would have given him a lot of respect and props for getting in the ring with a Jerron Boots Ennis at 147, or for making a fight happen with Terrence Crawford, whether he came back to 147 to fight him, or if Teofimo, according to what he said before, was willing to go up to 154 and afford Terrence. I think that is daring to be great. I think those are big feats to accomplish for a fighter coming from 135 like Teofimo to get in the ring with the Jerron, or get in the ring with the Terrence Crawford. But I think at the end of the day, though, activity is very important for a fighter like Teofimo. And I just think he picked the wrong time in his career to stand so tall on this making money thing, to the point to where he's not fighting. You understand what I'm saying? Like, to the point where the activity's not there, it's counterproductive. It doesn't work. Like, okay, I get it. Call it out. Make it happen. You got, okay, listen, man. Yo, Turkey, I want to fight Jerron Boots Ennis. Honorable, hard fight, crazy fight, competitive fight. Man, that's a crazy fight, man. If he makes it, but be realistic and say that if that doesn't happen, what am I going to do? Because I want to be active.
Right.
And you get an offer from Devin Haney, from His Excellency, to make the fight happen, and you let that fight wiggle away from you because you're still so caught up on the prize fighting. You don't take the fight that could literally set the price off for you for the future fights. If you're confident enough to go in that fight and think you're going to win that fight, why would you let that fight slide away from you? And a perfect Devin Haney for you to fight. A Devin Haney who potentially suffering from PTSD, coming off of a performance against Jose Ramirez. You could have got him right on your resume for a nice little bag, a couple of million. I'm hearing rumors anywhere from $3.5, $4 million to north of $5 million to make that fight happen. You allow that fight to slip away from you. Now, even I'm hearing Shakur Stevenson negotiations are a bit difficult because you're playing that game again, and we may potentially see that fight not happen because you're overpricing yourself. So, as I stated earlier, the one word that wraps up what I see happening with Teofimo is inactivity, and that's what it's all been adding up to thus far. I'm looking forward to things to develop, and for him to make, I don't want to say liars out of us, because I don't think nobody's lying, but to make us wrong on our speculation. I'll say it like that.
And it's not going to happen. And when I was talking earlier about guys who are giving me so much stick over this year, but when it comes to Teo, Punch has been one of the worst. So, but Punch, I'm going to take the high road here and not insult you like you've done with me. Teo, this is one of the dumbest.
You got into it with Punch?
So that's why.
I
was like, oh,
no.
You don't want to get into Punch. Punch a wild boy, bro. You go crazy.
Yeah. Look, I enjoy the passion, but. Okay, and I'm not, and guys, I'm not gonna clip this out because I'm not interested in drama. But Punch threw out insults to me because I disagreed with him. But whatever. Okay, look, it's the internet. But this is one of the dumbest things I heard, and I got so Punch. Punch. If you're listening to this, you gave me so much stick for this when I said, just because Turki Al-Sheikh was interested in Boots versus Teo, I was interested in Boots versus Teo. That's a good fight. It doesn't mean Teo was entitled to it, and that Boots had to sacrifice the rest of his career to fight this guy, who he may or may not get credit for beating him if he does it. So, yeah, just because people are interested, and just because Turki was interested, the guy would have put the fight on. It doesn't mean that Teo was entitled to it, and Teo was relieved of all wrongdoing. Fighting a guy who's pretty much in the same weight division as you is far more plausible than jumping divisions and fighting a unified champion in a division you've never fought in. So any objective fan knew that, but the Teo fans were just so obsessed with thinking that he runs the sport or should run the sport. So there is no excuse for what Teo's done, ducking Haney. And no, Boots did not duck him. You can say that Boots has ducked Ortiz because the fight was there, offered a second time, and Boots decided to have a tune-up fight, which, okay, some guys have tune-up fights, some guys don't, but that's a reasonable that's a reasonable thing to say that he ducked the Ortiz fight. He did not duck Teo, and again, I don't want to go on about this, but fans who say, but Boots ducked Teo, man, because the fight was there. Turkey wanted to see it. you guys are enabling this kind of ridiculous. Oh God, I'm done with this. Sorry.
Yeah, no, listen, man. One thing I'll say is, man, Punch is somebody who I'm a fan of Punch to a large degree, right? Coming into the boxing space, I think Punch, and I've had conversations with him on my brother Mill Cities. He knows his boxing, man, and I like talking to him because he really knows his boxing. Like, there's not too many people who I give that type of credit to in this space. I'm not playing. I really don't. I'm very limited with him. He's one of the first people, and he really knows boxing. You know what I'm saying? It's fun talking about boxing. But when it comes to conversations about a fighter like Teofimo, a fighter that I know he supports in a certain way, I don't expect him to do anything, but I accept his position, if that makes any sense. I accept his position for who he is, and I don't argue with him on TO too much. I will express myself, but I will completely expect him to come back and push back at anything I have to say that makes Teofimo look wrong. There's certain people who are just like that, who I understand that about. They're just a certain way about their fighter, and I'm not going to get into it with Punch, but so deep on the Teofimo, but I will defend my position of how I feel about it. And I think most of the time from my conversations with Punch, he just kind of accepts it too. Like, yeah, bro, I already know how you thinking. So and he kind of accepts it, and we move on and we get on to like boxing conversations about a bunch of other things that we'll talk about and enjoy those conversations, but we'll defend our position. So don't let the passion get too much to you. If you keep on pushing something with Puncho, he will have a slow roast. You know what I'm saying?
Well, no, yeah, 100%. No, my attitude 100% is like, if you disagree, the best conversations you have are with guys who disagree with you.
Right.
The problem I had is, okay, it wasn't even over the TO thing. It's just we were discussing what happened to Tszyu after the Fundora rematch.
Okay.
And another guy who Punch Drunk is not objective about. And look, I've got no ill will. I can move on, but Punch, you know what you pulled with the Jermell
Punch is probably sitting back in his living room, like laughing his ass off right now because he probably remembers exactly what you're about to talk about. Go ahead.
Well, I'll say that I'll keep this short. This is what happened. I was saying that Tszyu should retire early, and I said to you guys that some guys. Oh, do you want to read this out?
No, I mean, but Dragonfly just kind of summed it up. He said basically Clay saying Punch is biased as hell with T.O. and Clay won't waste too much energy. Exactly. I'll defend my position if I have to, but I know where he stands when it comes to the Teofimo conversation. I know where he stands, and I'm not going to. And there's a lot, even with like the Javante Tank Davis fans, right?
T.O. accountable.
No, he did. He held him accountable for the Devin jump off.
Yeah, well, but this here's the thing. But he had to. He had to because the T.O. Haney thing was just such a blatant duck. But Punch, this is what you gave me. Punch, this is what Punch gave me crap about. And Punch, you know this is what happened. We were discussing the Tszyu fallout from the Fundora fight, where I said to you guys, some guys like Riddick Bowe just have to retire early. It's the game's brutal. Punch was using this as an opportunity to basically call Tszyu a quitter and dump on him and insult him because Tszyu used to call out Jermell Charlo. Now, this is what Punch shouted over me every time I was bringing it up, because this is a fact. Jermell Charlo, look, he did a fantastic job. I've said this before. After he was crying after a pitiful performance against Tony Harrison, who would have thought that he would have gone on to be undisputed? Excellent job. But the way he acted after winning that undisputed fight, and Tszyu fought legit contenders to earn that title, which Charlo vacated because he wasn't defending it. Tszyu deserved credit for that, and Jermell Charlo did act like a diva. This is what Punch Drunk couldn't handle. Punch was just shouting over me saying, "Oh, you're defending this guy who quit against Fundora." I'm like, hey, this happened years before the Fundora fight. Tszyu went out and earned that bout. He was calling Tszyu an email champion. I'm like, yeah, he had to fight for a vacant title because Jermell Charlo vacated. But I'm over it. I can move on. Punch, I hold no ill will, but you don't let other people. You didn't let me talk when I had another opinion. That is what it is. But I'm over that. Like it is what it is.
I mean, it is what it is, man. I learned and I was gonna say that even with some of the Tank fans, I know who I'm talking to when I'm talking to him. If you're a Tank fan, I know who you are. I don't look. For me, I feel like the Tank fans are more passionate than they need to be about it, because a person like me accepts Tank for who he is. But I'm gonna be honest about when you start jumping into certain conversations and you trying to put the jacket on Shakur on a fight not being made, or the jacket on Devin, or the jacket on other. I'm like, no, this man is an A side, right? This man holds the weight. He puts the asses in seats. Leonard Elby made it clear you don't send offers to him. He sent offers to you. He's the one to make fights. And until you can show me some documentation to back up him making offers and people turning away from offers, I'm not playing that game. He didn't make the fight happen, bro. That's what it is. He didn't make the fight happen. The reason the fight isn't happening is because he didn't make it happen. Now, he doesn't want to make it happen, in my opinion. I don't think he's interested in making it happen. I think there's more documentation out there and more footage of Gervonta Tank Davis dismissing those fights than accepting and saying that he wants to make those fights happen. So those arguments are getting intense because you guys want me to do like what I think a lot of the I don't want to say nothing crazy, but we'll see. We'll go for it, right?
Divas.
If you're a man, you ain't gonna get me to call you a woman, bro. Right? Like, I can accept the way you want to live, and that's your world, but you're not gonna get me to compromise my intelligence or my sanity and start walking around here calling you ma'am and calling you. I'm not going to do that for you. That's when it gets too much. That's when I'll defend it, and it'll look like I have you'll turn that into I have an issue with you living your life. I don't. I leave that between you and God. But no, I'm not finna participate in the charades with you. So that's when the conversation will get interesting, when it becomes, let me prove to you that Tank was doing something that Tank didn't do. But when you're talking to certain people, their conversations that are there to be had, and it could be good conversations, but there's other conversations where you just know where the person stands when it comes to that topic. You know what I mean? I think it's a legitimate. Tszyu did give up against Sebastian Fundora, in my opinion. He didn't come up to stool.
No, I didn't. I don't have a problem with that, but I said this in my video that about it, that yes, Tszyu did quit, but many great fighters quit. One of my top 5 favorites ever, a guy who I think is a top 10 all-time great, period, regardless of weight class, Duran, infamous no mask fight. Alexis Arguello, he didn't want any more after he got dropped by Pryor in the rematch. He admitted afterwards, he said, I don't want to take risks. In other words, he had enough. And there was another example, I forget which one, but Vitaly Klitschko, he quit against Chris Bird, but fought with his eyes split in half against Lennox Lewis like a warrior. So lots of great fighters have quit. So I haven't got a problem saying Tszyu did quit. To say that Tszyu's a coward, though, is well, again, I'm over it. Like, I was just frustrated because Punch wasn't even listening to what I was saying, and that's
right.
I've got a problem with that.
In that type of conversation, it's like he's free to feel that way. The type of person who I am, okay, I see how you see it, man, but I don't see it the same. But that's cool. I don't care. Yeah. You feel what I'm saying? You put Tio there. I feel like it's Punch. I'm scared though. I'm not pulling you up until I see a video come up. I'm assuming it's Punch. Can I get a face on this video there real quick, a confirmation of who you are? Can I pull you up here and you pull a dildo out? I'm gonna feel some kind of way about it, bro. I ain't gonna lie, bro. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna get in my feelings about Tio's. I know who this is. Ross Clyde. Salute to my guy, Ross Clyde.
You always got a new.
As soon as you put Tio's a bum on, I know who it is.
What's up, good, fam? I just want to jump on real quick and say one thing, all right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm gonna jump off. So we all been watching boxing for a long time.
Yes, sir.
And I know that when people are in a debate, they'll start to say things about certain fighters. And I don't know what the debate was about, but when you lose in a debate, then you start to say things that kind of really don't make sense when there's a history behind what took place. So yeah, Tszyu quit against Fundora, right? However, he was never the same after the first fight with Fundora. It's unfortunate that his trainers let the fight go on too long. And one fight, we've seen it time and time again in boxing history, one fight could change the rest of your career, period. And we saw that when he fought against the Russian guy when he got pummeled into that fight. And then now you go into a fight with Fondora, who, in my opinion, is a weight bully that somehow is accepted. But anyway, he quit in that fight. Yeah, he did. He did quit. But some fighters, if they don't have it anymore, they can't continue. They can't go on. So they will quit. When Fight Sports Talk brought up Roberto Duran, that was a great example. The difference between Tim Tszyu and Roberto Duran is Roberto Duran could actually still continue to fight. He could have continued to fight. In Tim Tszyu's case, he didn't have it anymore. Physically, mentally, he's gone. So we need to stop all of this, because like I said, it's a lot of new people into boxing and they just don't know the history of and what really be going on inside that ring and inside the boxer's mind. Like I said, one fight could change the whole course of your career, and it's happened time and time again. And that's what I believe happened with Tim Tszyu.
Okay. Yeah, I agree.
And I just wanted to say that. Tio's a bum.
I agree with everything you said.
Salute, y'all.
Salute, Roscoe. I totally agree with everything he said, man. I think shout out to Showbiz once again. I always give him his respect whenever I quote this, because I thought this was a real profound quote that he said one day. I don't know if he found it somewhere else, but he said there's excuses and there's reasons, and there's never an excuse because a fighter makes a decision to get in the ring in the space that he's in the capacity that he's in. But the reason, there's always a reason, one way or the other. And I think the shell of a fighter, in my opinion, that we saw against Sebastian Fundora the second time around was based off of an experience he had with Sebastian Fundora in the beginning, and he never recovered from it, and then compounded by being knocked out by Bakram. So, that fighter he was against Sebastian Fundora the second time was a post Fundora fighter, not a pre Fundora fighter.
And I promise you this, and I strongly believe this, knowing that there's no evidence to it, but my thoughts, right? I think if he took that Virgil Ortiz fight, I think he would have been better off after that Fundora fight, taking the Virgil Ortiz fight, bouncing back.
There you go, Anthony. I'll put the link out there for you, bro. Go ahead, hit it.
Bouncing back as a fighter with the Virgil Ortiz fight, then he would have declining that fight not once but twice to go fight Bakram and then coming into the ring and show himself. Because I don't think the threat for Virgil Ortiz, who literally never made weight at that time, fighting at 154 would have been a super threat until that happened. Mm-hmm. So I think ultimately he would have been better off fighting Virgil Ortiz than going into that fight with Bakram. That literally changed him completely. I think the Bakram knockout really put him second guessing himself and wondering. I think the Virgil Ortiz would have been a better move, but he chose to go that route, him and his team, and look at him now.
Salute to Anthony. Once again, salute to Anthony Manzano, in your new subscriber to the channel, man. I appreciate the act of faith in us being a space that you can speak on boxing, man. Welcome to the show, man. How you doing today?
Yeah, I'm a fairly new fan to. Yeah, for me, I'm a fairly new fan to boxing. I switched from MMA. I grew up watching MMA mostly, and I switched to boxing later on. Mm-hmm. I only watched boxing when Oscar was fighting and stuff like that. So, and the Tim Tszyu thing, I got in arguments with his fans on Twitter multiple times. Them saying he was just a carbon copy of his father. I'm like, what are you guys smoking? He's not Costa. He is nowhere near his father. Mm-hmm. Him and the other one that's a second generation fighter that they wanted to fight each other. I forgot. Chris Eubank Jr. Mm-hmm. They're just honestly, they're not good. They're decent fighters that just wanted to live off their father's names. I don't think they really cared about the sport. In my head, I don't think they really cared about the sport. Am I being harsh? Fight talk or fights, guys? Or
I don't know if they didn't. If I wouldn't, me personally, I don't think it's that they're not interested in the sport as much. But I'll tell you this though: when Marvin Hagler said the silk sheets and the silk pajamas, I think it's difficult for a fighter to come up in comfort and be the fighter that their father, who came from out of the slums, you know what I'm saying, who came out of fighting for necessity. It's hard for any of those fighters to really replicate their father's
I think that's
legacy.
this generation as a whole.
Well,
for me, I feel this is.
Anthony, I was sorry, just to respond to what you were saying. I was away from my desk. These guys, I think it's their attitude more than anything. They've just grown up as spoiled kids. I do think they like the sport, but they like it more as a show rather than to go out and prove they were the best. So with Tim Tszyu, I said from the start that his attitude was different than those guys. I felt Tim Tszyu had the attitude that I want to see. And Punch, you can talk as much nonsense as you want, but look, you didn't.
This out loud. Tim Tszyu was hype, and I called it a long time ago. I ain't gonna lie to you. Tim Tszyu didn't get my respect like that until he beat Brian Mendoza. When I saw him running through those fighters like Tony Harrison, I wanted to see him fight Jermell Charlo to find out if he was really that. I thought it was a damn shame that I didn't get to see that fight. I didn't put that on Tim Tszyu though. I put that on Jermell Charlo for, pretty much taking the hiatus after fighting Canelo Alvarez and not making the fight happen. But I'll say going into 2024, Tim Tszyu, in my opinion, on paper was the best junior middleweight in the division at that time. He was the guy
over Fandora. Hold
on a second. We can't talk of each other. That was the guy who Terrence Crawford wanted to fight. That was the guy who was the guy that was, I think, at the top of the conversation at 154 for that moment in time until Sebastian Fandor, did what he did with him. But I'm not going to lie to you. I thought he was a hype job prior to the Brian Mendoza fight. I'm being honest with you. I wasn't really into him like that. I was like, that dude's just gonna get clipped. I always thought Jermell would beat him, but I'll tell you, going into 2024, I thought he was that guy. I thought he earned a lot of my respect in the Brian Mendoza fight, and he even earned my respect in the Tony Harrison fight. But I got to be honest about that.
And this is what Punch had to go with me over. So I'm just going to clear this up.
Oh my God!
It's not all right. Well, it's not okay. It's not unfair to say that you felt that.
Hold on, Anthony. I'm going to put you down for a second and allow this to develop a little bit. All right, I'll bring you back up a little later. Cool.
Okay.
All right, brother. Thanks for coming up.
So it's not unfair to say that you felt Tim Tszyu was a hype job, because I'm from this part of the world. I questioned that. I questioned if he was for real. And I never said that Jermell Charlo ducked him, because, okay, you break your hand, whatever. This is the problem I had with Jermell Charlo. And again, I was a big fan of Charlo, the way he came back from the Harrison defeat. But when he broke his hand, he was consistently making excuses about why Tim Tszyu was all hype, etc. Tim Tszyu didn't have to fight Tony Harrison. He didn't call out some bum. He called out Tony Harrison, and he dominated him very impressively. And that's when I started to think, okay, maybe Tim Tszyu is for real. Then the fight kept getting postponed because of Jermell Charlo. And then after making all of these accusations, I mean, by the way, he said the reason Tony Harrison got dominated by Tim Tszyu is because his water was poisoned. He said, maybe the guys in Australia poisoned his water. Like, he was giving Tim Tszyu no credit whatsoever. Then he didn't fight him. Okay, not a duck. I want to make that perfectly clear. But the way he handled it was, it just rubbed me the wrong way. Okay, you don't want to fight a guy. You want to move up, vacate your belt, for crying out loud. Okay, then Tim Tszyu went out and fought champ after champ after champ. Okay, he tried to prove himself, and it didn't work out for him. Okay, not a problem with that. Not everybody grows up to be the real deal, but don't call the guy a coward, man. And to say you're saying, how dare people compare him to Jermell Charlo? Let me just say this, and Punch, you know this. You've been following the sport for a long time. We don't give guys emperor status just because they become undisputed. You have to keep proving yourself against the top contenders. So don't get angry at me for saying that he should have fought his top contender. All right, go ahead.
Salute, my brother.
Salute.
First, Jermell Charlo didn't become undisputed like just fighting one guy and became undisputed. He's had his whole career at 154 while Canelo, Andre was all there. He scraped that whole division.
So his undisputed reign is just as impressive as anybody that's been undisputed because he actually cleaned out his division. Tim Tszyu came and started rising when he's already cleaned out the division, and then people try to shame Jermell Charlo for Tim Tszyu, especially after coming to America for his first fight versus Gaucher when he got dropped. It was a hype job, bro. And that's what it is. It was a hype job in reference to shaming Jermell Charlo, who did all the work, cleaned out the division. He beat each champion and knocked them out. Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second.
Go ahead, Punch. Yeah, I mean, so far, man, I'm telling you, man, Tim was. Listen, man, I don't know about Tim being a coward. You know what I mean? But that's each their own. But yo, bro, he ended up not being what people were saying he was, and I think a lot of us here in the States kind of were wondering who he was because we didn't really believe it either. But when he did what he did against Tony Harrison and Brian Mendoza, we were like, "Oh, all right, man. Look, man. And if anything, one thing we gave Tim Tszyu a lot of respect for was it always seemed like he was willing to fight the best, and that's what we gave him a lot of respect for.
Yeah, and just to respond to what. Yeah, and just to respond to what Punch has said, I did not shame Jermell Charlo. I just said he should have gone about it a bit differently. But yeah, he, like you just said, Clay, what I really liked is that he was a guy who was prepared to fight the best. Now, in the end, Tim Tszyu, he's going to end up being, because I think he's done. I felt the Fundora rematch this early was a gamble. It didn't work out. And I don't think he's going to come back from this. And it hurts me to say that, but I'm objective. Sometimes it doesn't work out for everybody. Sometimes your careers get cut short when you take a lot of punishment early. So I never shamed.
Is Robesi Ramirez a coward for walking away from Rafael Espinosa?
My fault, guy.
Yeah. Go ahead.
That's a great question. But can I just say something real quick?
Let Punch finish.
Let him finish the statement. Yeah.
Let him close it up.
So I was saying in terms of, in reference to Jermell Charlo, that's a hype job. I didn't think that Jermell Charlo should have been shamed by a Tim Tszyu. You know what I'm saying? And as you pointed out, and I pointed out with you, Fight Sports, he didn't plan to go and move up. He was planning to fight Tim Tszyu, but his hand broke. Now, in this community, we already know how it is in this community. A guy gets injured. Oh, man, show us. Oh, he's ducking. Even if he got a broken hand and show the cast, just like with Earl Spence. No, he gotta show the medical report about his eye and stuff like that. Like, when people's injured, people think it's a duck. He never ducked Tim Tszyu. He was winning the fight Tim Tszyu. Let's not forget that the fight with Tony Harrison came about because Jermell Charlo got injured. He didn't move up to fight Canelo Alvarez. That fight was supposed to be for his brother, Jermell Charlo, and he pulled out of the negotiations because of mental, and he stepped up. But he wasn't planning to go and fight Canelo Alvarez. That was a fight that was presented to him because his brother couldn't fight him. So who's going to duck that opportunity to fight Canelo Alvarez? Is that a duck? Ain't nobody calling Terence Bud Crawford a duck at 154 for going up and fight Canelo Alvarez when he had a tough fight with Madrimov. You can't call that guy a duck for fighting Canelo Alvarez. So in that sense, Jermell Charlo he earned the right to do whatever he wanted to do, especially after the Brian Castano. He earned that right.
Right.
No, sorry. I got to push back on that.
No.
Now, I agree, Punch, I agree with you that Jermell Charlo didn't deserve to be shamed. I never shamed him. And I also didn't say that Jermell Charlo faked the injury. One of the reasons fans were saying, well, Jermell, are you really injured? You better show proof, is because when Brian Castano postponed the rematch, Jermell insinuated that he was evading drug testing. So if you Jermell shamed his opponents for pulling out of fights with injuries, so he got shamed for it. That's what goes around comes around. And
but
also,
he showed the proof.
Okay, he did show the proof. But again, I don't have a problem with Jermell Charlo getting injured after, like you said, he did have a very tough, undisputed run. The thing is that I was simply saying, Tim Tszyu, you can't say that he was given about that he didn't earn. He was trying to fight the top contenders when Jermell was postponing the fight. And Tim Tszyu also didn't shame Jermell when the Canelo fight was made. He just said, well, what did I do all this staying busy for? if the champion's not going to fight me anyway. And then Jermell said, "Oh, you're not worthy of me," or whatever. That's just the second you start saying top contenders who are fighting other top contenders, because Tony Harrison was a top contender when he fought him. The second that you say top contenders who are earning their spot as contenders aren't worthy of you, sorry, that's why you get criticized by me.
Yo, but there's certain top contenders that after you make a run like that, you're not worthy. Like, just because you beat Garcia and then you beat Tony Harrison, you're worthy. Like, you in the spot. You in that spot. It's just almost like Virgil Ortiz and Bruce Ennis was in that same spot for a long time. Mm-hmm. Until it got to the point where, all right, now it's worthy. Like after the Bud Crawford and Earl Spence, now you got to give a shot to Bruce Ennis if you're going to stay there. It's nothing else.
Yeah, I agree. I think in comparison to if the conversation is me going to fight Canelo Alvarez or whatever I'm moving forward on, and you're trying to like turn that into something as to where I should even be thinking about not doing that to do something with you, I think it's a fair, like, why? What have you done that would make me turn away from legacy and, more importantly, the biggest bag of money, you know what I'm saying, that's there in front of me after I've already swept the division and become undisputed to the point to where you could even bring up anything you've done as far as work or activity that adds up to an obligation of me to walk away or turn away from what's in front of me to, you know, deal with you, hindsight wise. But look, I don't think Tim Tszyu is a coward. I don't think he is. I think if anything, I'm going to give credit for Tim Tszyu is he seemed to always be willing to fight the best. He's always looking to be active.
I don't think no fighter is really a coward to step inside that ring. But let's be honest. The next big fight for Jermell Charlo, outside of the Canelo Alvarez, and the next big fight for Terence Bud Crawford was them. Yes. Terence Bud Crawford looked like Jermell Charlo after Earl Spence, and that was the next fight. So anybody would have got Jermell. Would anybody call Jermell Charlo a duck? Is either Canelo or Terence Bud Crawford. Would y'all call would y'all call Jermell Charlo a duck if he would have fought Terence Bud Crawford after beating Earl Spence to fight Tim Tszyu?
No.
Right?
No, I didn't. I never said Jermell Charlo ducked Tim Tszyu. I just felt that he should have gone about it a little bit differently. But that's all in the past. You know, maybe I got a little heated. I just felt
because Tim Tszyu got his ass whooped.
All right. Oh, okay. All right. Punch. All right. Come on. All right. Look, I'm not going to let you get away with that. Okay.
You gotta have thickness in this fight more so because if he knows it's going to work, he's going to catch it, bro. He's going to throw these. I'm telling you, you better be able to let it take that.
Punch. You're trying to revise history. You're trying to say, well, what happened in the past doesn't matter because Tim Tszyu got smashed by Fundora and Bakram. He did get smashed. I'm not making excuses for him, but what happened in the past did happen. Okay, don't rewrite history just because something.
No, I don't think he's rewriting history though, but I think he is saying that certain things happen that put the past into perspective to where it don't even matter because the reality is, you know, in all honesty, Jermell Charlo would have beat Tim Tszyu, bro.
Maybe. I don't know.
Probably.
I'm going to tell you this. I'm going to say something real quick because I've been listening to everyone. Mm-hmm. I think what we're missing is, one, Jermell Charlo has lost fights to other fighters at 154. Two, 154 has been a hornet's nest for quite some years, and it's one of the toughest divisions in boxing and has been. Tim Tszyu, the way he was moving in 154, to allude to what Clay said, yes, he put himself in a good position, and he also ran into the hornet's nest or the high risk, low reward fighters. I think altogether that I don't see any fighter really running through 154 and going undefeated. Excuse me. There are some there. I mean, the best case scenario, I think Xander Zayas may have the best chance because of his style. But that is even if he continues to fight and campaign at 154. So there's a lot of takes on this, on who was better, who's this fight would have been here or there. It's just a hell of a division, and I give respect to all the fighters because it's like a round robin division. I mean, you had Castano beat Fedor. I'm sorry, not Castano. You had Mendoza beat Fedor, Tim Tszyu beat Mendoza. You know what I mean? It's just a round robin of thing. So who knows what would happen and what goes on.
Yeah, I agree.
What we see.
Punch, let me ask you a question though while I got you on here. So looking at the return of Jermell Charlo right now in the division, How do you feel about 154 right now with a Jermell Charlo? I think there's an opportunity there for a genuine litmus test for the whole division, right? Because he is still, the undefeated, undisputed champion in that division for all argument's sake, right? Nobody took his belts away from him. And all those fighters that are champions in there are arguably email champions at this point. What do you think about him coming back? Well, first of all, do you think he is coming back? Are you a believer in what you've been seeing happening? And if he does come back, how do you think 154 looks now?
My fault. Let me. I got to bag groceries over. That's it. One second.
Thank you. Yeah.
I'll just say this quickly. If Jermell is coming back and he really is as passionate as his message on social media says, I'm excited. I don't know who he should fight. A very interesting, Clay, that you think Xander Zayas has got a chance to be the best, because I'm not saying he doesn't, but it's just he's quite green.
Ray said that, by the way, but I agree with Ray too, by the way. Well,
yeah. Oh, really? Yeah.
I think Ray, that Xander has a lot of potential, man. I'm not saying he. I think the division is a crazy division, but I do think Xander Zayas' style is very. I think it's a complicated style for a lot of division. I think the division is a lot of punchers, there's some boxers in there, but I think he brings that sweet science that I don't know, man. I just need to see it, man. I just got to see it. I think he has a good chance. Go ahead, Punch.
I've been saying this been my favorite division for a long time. I've been saying it's like for 6 years already that the 154-pound division is the most competitive. I call it the landmark division. I always talk about this division. A lot of people in boxing never wanted to emphasize or talk about this division. It was just a bunch of dudes that wasn't a high-profile fighter. But if you really look at everybody that stepped to 154, that's the toughest pit stop in boxing. You know what I'm saying? Everybody's look vulnerable. Nobody look beyond great. You know what I'm saying? Jermell Charlo did clean up, but he had his struggles as well. Canelo Alvarez had his struggles as well. Demis Andre got a split decision and got dropped at 154. Virgil Ortiz almost, escaped. He escaped with a victory versus Boachuk. Tim Tszyu got his, you know what I'm saying? We already spoke about Tim Tszyu. Fundora lost. Lubin lost. Mendoza lost. Teixeira was the Tim Tszyu before Tim Tszyu. At least he won a world title, but Lara struggled. Everybody struggled. Everybody looked vulnerable at 154, and we saw how Terrence Bud Crawford did look versus Majumov, and that's why I gave a lot of credit to Jermell Charlo. Jermell Charlo been on my pound for pound list for a long time. I think he was getting snubbed throughout the years because there was no lucrative names. I think Jermell Charlo is gonna come back. I think last time I did try to get a interview like a little under a year ago, and he was already in shape. He was already in 168 pounds working out. You know what I'm saying? I think that he was going through, you know what I'm saying, family, situations and things of that nature, in which now everything is all good. But he's willing to come back to 154.
Yeah. So you think you're anticipating his return then? You like that you're anticipating it still. You feel like these so the social media campaign that's been happening, you're expecting something to be announced maybe 2025, late 2025, or
Yeah. I think he'll get I think he will get a catch weight in the middle of one maybe 155, 156 or something like that. He said he's coming at 154, but probably 160. You know what I'm saying? But I think all the money and the big fights at 154 right now.
Right.
It's hot. It's always been hot to me, but now I think that everybody's invested now in boxing at 154. Potential Texas fight with him and Virgil Ortiz. Potential fight with the winner Fundora and Keith Thurman. You've seen Keith Thurman and Jermell Charlo going back and forth. So I think there's going to be some easy fights to secure. He called out his boy Earl Spence. So I think this division is going to be good, and it's going to be easy to make because a lot of these guys are affiliated with PBC. So yeah, man. And once he stepped back in a 154, because nobody has done anything more significant than Jermell Charlo, I think he's still the guy to beat if he comes back at 154.
That's a big question, right? And I guess the last question is this 154 division a more competitive division, do you think, than the division he became undisputed in? than the fighters he did? Do you think that this division is a lot more hostile, a lot more, you know what I mean? Like, is this a more difficult division to achieve, to accomplish the same accolades he did before?
I think, to be honest, I think is the same. I think, again, I think for me, it's been my favorite division for a long time. I think now people, because they know who Virgil Ortiz is and they know who Boots is, and we've seen Terrence Bud Crawford, now a bunch of people are invested. But if you look at the last 10 years or 11 years of 154, you'll see the names and you see the same Middle Eastern names that people, the Korobovs of the world, that people, he was a good fighter. You know what I'm saying? There was a lot of good fighters, Eastern European fighters. It was great. It was good fighters. So I think that, if I say that it's more difficult now, I think people will agree because the names that they know. But I think there's a lot of people that still need to be proven. You know, Boots still got to prove himself at 154. Virgil Ortiz still proving himself at 154. Fundura just got the win with Tim Tszyu, but look at Tim Tszyu. You know, I think it's gonna be tougher for Fundura to fight Keith Thurman as well. You know, I think everybody else needs to prove themselves. It was they're vacant title holders. They didn't beat Jermell Charlo. I think it's a tough fight for Virgil Ortiz, that Lubin fight. That's going to be a war.
Yeah.
Ramos is still there. It's going to be, I'm telling you.
Well, I think Ramos is playing at 160 right now, right?
You notice that Jermell Charlo called everybody else out except for Xander Zayas?
Yeah, I think Xander's is the dark horse, bro. I think he's a fighter who's about to, I'm going to be real with you, bro. I think Xander is, I got a feeling about Xander. The only thing that might save them from Xander is I wonder if he'll outgrow the division, because he's just, every time I see him, the kid just looks like he's going through another stage in his life, bro. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'll tell you this. I'll tell you, he'll be safe at 160 than 154.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why, you know, it could save 154 from him, but I think he presents a lot of issues for a lot of fighters at 154. I think he's being slept on because he ain't got that power. But I think that boxing, that boy box, bro. That boy box.
Yeah, he's good, no doubt. And Ray, I'm not disagreeing with you that Xander Zayas has got a lot of potential there. I just think this division is so stacked, and he's, again, no problems there. He's young, but now he's a champion, so he's going to have to fight everybody. I feel he may get a wake-up call soon, but we'll see. I'm very excited to see his future, and I think this is the most stacked division in the sport. Like,
who gives him the wake-up call, though?
Who would I pick to beat him?
Yeah.
You're not going to like my answer to that. I'd pick all the top 5 guys except Madrimov to beat him. This is what I'm saying, but Clay, just hear me out here. That's not me saying Xander Zayas ain't good. I think he's very good. But you're asking about right now. Right now, I don't think he beats a lot of the top guys. Sorry.
So he's a belt holder that's not ready.
I don't think I just think he's young. But the thing is, there's no problem with that. But again, Madrimov, I think we're kind of seeing the limits of his potential there. But Murtazaliev, I think, is he's the guy I'm very high on after that Tim Tszyu fight, and the rest of the division just won't fight him. Fundora, I agree with you, Punch. Fundora, he's looked good against Tim Tszyu, whose chin has completely gone, so he's not the fighter he used to be. But Fundora's using his reach for once, so I think he gives a lot of these guys problems. And Ortiz, I think he's the most proven guy in terms of who he's fought. Unless Charlo does come back, I agree with you there. I think these guys beat Xander Zayas right now, but down the line, you don't know.
Xander gets better every fight, man. They can beat him, but I don't think they will. I think he's too smart, and I don't think they're. Here's where the issue is, right? Xander's used to fighting those guys. Those guys aren't used to fighting Xander. And what do I mean by that? Those guys are like mirror images of each other when they get in the ring, bro. When you watch Serhii Bohachuk fight Virgil Ortiz, it was like the same fighter fighting each other. You know what I'm saying? Same ideas, same, Charles Conwell, Bakram boxes more. He boxes and punches. But, those fighters up there fighting each other, they don't fight. Those guys don't have Xander Zayas to fight against. Meanwhile, Xander Zayas has nothing but those guys he's fighting against. So it's like he's getting efficient at fighting those kind of fighters. And those guys, when they get in the ring with Xander Zayas, it's a culture shock. Because you're like, yo, this dude is moving. He's boxing, using his footwork, that jab. He keeping that stick on me. Man, his head moving is nasty. And he got a nice body campaign that I appreciate about him, which I think really discourages a lot of these fighters to really get involved with him like that. I think he has that Floyd Mayweather thing going about him where people used to always say Floyd didn't have power. But Floyd was always able to get that respect in the ring somehow. Nobody was ever willing to run him over except for like Maidana tried, right? But most of the time he was able to get them to be like, all right, man, I got a box. Xander has that about him that I like about him. Somebody's about to say something? Punch?
I was going to say, the thing I think about 154 is just the grown man division. It's a grown man division, guys that's winning the scrap, guys that got amateur pedigree, Olympic pedigree. And for Xander, it's not like, like 135 when the guys, when Teo and Haney and these guys are coming up in the same division. They're like, boys. But this division is men. You know what I'm saying? You going to get into a fight with Lubin, Xander Zayas. You're going to get into a fight with Charlo. You're going to get into a fight with Virgil. You're going to get a fight with Fundura. These guys could box, could punch, could take a hit. We've seen a lot of these guys go through adversity, and that's why I call the most competitive division. This division is the one that truly lets you know who you really are and what level you on. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's like, again, pound for pound. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can flip it around. Terrence Bud Crawford, 9-0 guy, and you struggle with Mazurov. This division is tough.
It is. It is a tough
division. It's
the
Winky Wright division. This is the Fernando Vargas division. This is the Hoya division. Everybody got tested in this division. You ain't walking out of 154 and not get tested.
Yeah. Yeah. It seems to be the division where these guys get real strong in. Like they don't the weight cut is no longer an issue and all these different things. Like they're their most truest selves at this division, like 154, 160. This seems to be like the division where you really got these guys at the full version of themselves. Whereas it seems like at 147, 140, 135, they're depleted in one way or another. They're not as complete as they seem to end up being when they get 154. It seems like they're able to just let it fly. Like they let their hands fly, and the power is there, the conditioning is there. It's like a good division to see, like you said, who they really are.
Well, my brother, let me have some dinner. Shout out to Clay and everybody on the panel, everybody in the chat. God bless.
Right.
Have a good Sunday.
All right, brother.
Peace out.
Salute, Punch. Thanks for coming up, man.
Peace, man.
Peace.
I just want to say I'm glad I was able to put that out there to get you guys to not really beef about who was the best and let y'all know that everyone's vulnerable at 154, because I was like, it's about to go ham on two fighters, but are we forgetting about the division? Because a lot of these fighters are good at 154. It's a hornet's nest, as we
for sure
always says. So
I want to see Xander versus Jesus Ramos.
That was really
just to be like, everybody gonna run through this division. And look, when I say about Xander, right, and Clay mentioned it, it's the footwork. This guy does not box. He's not a bulldog in the fight. He's not getting in there going toe to toe, rock'em sock'em. He's utilizing his skill set. And again, I think that because of his youth and things of that nature, it gives him the ability to use those tricks and gimmicks to outbox people. And I call it tricks and gimmicks because a lot of people are not looking to it's like it's like heavyweights. It's like literally like a heavyweight division in there, right? And he's not fighting like a heavyweight. He's not fighting like them guys.
It's like Usyk, right? It's like what Usyk brought to the division. Like it just gets complicated because he brings some athleticism that these guys aren't used to dealing with.
And I got a question, if you don't mind. I mean, but the difference between him and Usyk is that Usyk actually has power. Xander doesn't. And my question is this: does he have enough to keep people honest and keep people off of him?
Yeah.
Because I think some of them guys he doesn't, and other guys he may. I see it as a mixed bag.
This man. Sorry, Ray. Just very quickly, this man just said exactly what I was thinking, Clay. When you asked me how do I think he does against the top guys, and I said, aside from Madrimov, I'd pick the other top 5 guys to beat him right now. It's because his power, it's got to have time to develop, which is fine. But the problem is these guys are all good, and aside from Madrimov, these guys can all punch. So
yeah,
see, I honestly think that Virgil could beat Zayas right now, but the longer it goes on and the more Zayas develops, the more harder it's going to get for Virgil. Down the line, he probably loses, but right now he can still get it.
Can we be honest
for me, the guy who's at his level that I don't even think he beats is Ramos, Jesus Ramos. To be honest, I don't think he can beat Ramos. I don't think he can. He has enough power to keep Ramos honest and stuff like that. Look at what happened to his last 3 opponents, where Ramos, if he feels that your power is not going to hurt him, he's just going to walk you down. With nothing, like your Swiss cheese. That's what scares me with Xander. I'm a Xander fan too, but his power is something that's not going to keep a guy like that honest.
So it's not so much being Go ahead, finish up. My bad. I thought you took a long pause.
Yeah, no, and even Virgil. Him and Virgil are the 2 guys that I feel that Xander is not going to be able to hurt, to be honest. Like, where they're going to keep him on it.
So let me
keep him on. He's going to keep them honest.
Okay, got you. So let me counter what everyone is saying about his power. I don't think that he doesn't have power. I think he doesn't have to show power, and I'm going to tell you why I don't think he has to show power. Is because he has enough on his punches, right? He's not putting himself in a position where he has to utilize his power. He's staying on the back foot and he's boxing. So he's using those techniques to keep himself out of harm's way. If he wants to get in harm's way, I'm pretty sure he could be a power puncher and get in there and slug it out with the rest of them. But he chooses not to do that. And because he chooses not to do that, that gives him more ability and more insight to him being a better boxer to his opponents. Now, what I was going to say is we've seen this happen before. We've seen a guy switch it up to boxing. We actually seen 2 boxers in the division, and they were really good at the division, which was Tony Harrison at one point, and we seen Jermell Charlo turn into a boxer, where he had to turn into a boxer to win some of his belts. Because if he didn't turn into a boxer, he kept continuing to slug it out with these guys, he probably would end up either with another draw or a loss. I think the Castano fight was something he chose to. He went in there as a boxer, and it turned bad against him. I think in other fights, I think the rematch with Tony Harrison, he turned into a boxer as opposed to being a slugger. So we've seen Jermell Charlo utilize all those skill sets. I think he was well-rounded. I think when it comes down to experience and things of that nature, yeah, everybody has a little bit more experience, being that they have more ring experience than Xander. But Xander's been fighting for a long time as a youth. He's a young champion, and I think we give him time. I think he will get into those situations where you'll see him utilize his abilities, and you'll see him get some knockouts and stoppages. The reason why you're not seeing it now is because he's just putting enough on the punches just to keep you off of him, and he's using his quickness and youth to be slick and smooth in the ring to stay out of harm's way. And I think that is exactly what a lot of people are missing when I said that. I think he's too good for these guys as a boxer, as opposed to him going in there fighting it out in the box in the phone booth with these guys. He doesn't have to, because they got to get to him. And as long as he stays on point and outpoints them, he's going to win all these fights, I think.
Yeah, and I completely agree with what you guys are saying. His boxing skills are very good, and he's going to get better. It's just, I mean, because he doesn't have power, he's got to rely on being able to do what he does for 12 rounds. And because again, these guys can punch, and they've all had to grit their teeth. They've all been pushed in this division. We're just going to see what his limits are. But also, because he's a champion, he's kind of got an obligation to fight these guys early. But if he ends up fighting somebody like Bohachuk, who I definitely think he's got a good chance in that fight. Like Bohachuk is relentless, but he can be outboxed. So that would actually, I think, be a really good fight for him first. It's getting midday here, guys, so I am going to have to go for work, but I really appreciate you guys having me on. It was great to catch up. And like I said, the time difference with New Zealand is just it's a bit of a pain, but would love to jump on in the future. And peace out and thanks for having me on.
No doubt, man. Appreciate you coming through, man.
I got one more question for you guys.
Mm-hmm.
Now that Mel is back, how do you see things playing out for him in the division of 54?
Yeah, we were talking about that. We were talking about that a little earlier. With Mel, with
Sorry,
fighters,
I came in late.
No, it's all good. Yeah, with fighters, actually, we really just listened to Punch give his perspective. We really didn't speak on it as a panel in real time. Really just let Punch kind of build on it. But fighters coming back after 2+ year hiatuses is always a sensitive topic because it all depends on, because there's argument there to say that is Jermell the same Jermell that we knew, let's say, who fought a Tony Harrison or who fought a Brian Castano, or what I'm saying? Like, we also know that he had some surgery to his hand and the hand was healing. We don't even know what the hiatus was about, right? I think we can speculate and say that it was money, but there's also the reality that maybe he re-injured his hand inside that Canelo fight. Maybe he just didn't speak on it. We don't know what kind of fighter we're getting back. Punch mentioned that, the division was a dangerous division even when he was there. That 154 just historically has always been one of the most competitive divisions in boxing. And I agree with that, but I do believe that this is a very hungry 154 division. Is it the hungriest ever? I won't say it's the hungriest ever, but I'm going to say it's one of the hungriest divisions in a long time with the fighters that are there right now. I think he's jumping inside of a hornet's nest. I think ideally in a perfect world, what would happen is Jermell Charlo would take a tune-up and he would take his time and he would acclimate to the division and he would fight he would pick his fights accordingly, and he would make sure he was developing and getting better and getting back into the way things go. If the rumors that are circulating in the background is that money may have been an issue, then there's an argument to say that he's going to jump into where the most money is. And unfortunately for him at 154, the most money is probably going to be in the more dangerous fights. So I think it's a little riskier for him. But I think it's an opportunity for 154 to get the ultimate litmus test. I think he provides an opportunity. A lot of, when you look at Terrence Crawford and the way he left 147, he didn't give those guys an opportunity to be the champion, to become a champion. That was what held Geronimo Ennis up so long at 147, right? So he's given all those champions an opportunity to fight the real, true, undisputed champion. And I think that's great for boxing. That's great for those fighters. I think at a minimum, he's going to stir the pot and make the division a great division. If you're asking me how successful he's going to be in the division, I'm still out on that. I'm not sure all the way. I think he's going to have some success, but I think he might.
For me, I think he's completely shot.
Hold on, Anthony. So I think that he might run into an issue at 154. I think he's there for him. But go ahead, Anthony. You want to tap in?
Yeah, for me, I'm a fan of Charlo, but I believe he's completely shot. Like with the amount of punishment he's taken over his career, he became a boxer too late in his career. Him and his brother had the same issue. They weren't really defensive guys, and they were. You can't last long in this sport if your defense is taking punches with your face. To be honest, and I feel he's completely shot, and I don't think he has much left. And this is good. This hiatus is going to make it worse. To be honest.
Okay. I kind of hear what you're saying, and what I think what I'm gathering from it is that you're saying that because of the hiatus and the division getting tougher, it may be more difficult for him to make his moves that he wants, especially him getting right back into the mix of high contention, which Clay was mentioning. I kind of understand what you're saying. I do think that it's going to be more challenging. I think there's a lot of new blood in the division. I think there's I mean, he's still the crown king, not to mention also, but I think that he's hungry, and I think he can fight with a lot of the top guys. The thing is, him fighting with him, does he beat him? That's the question. And I don't know if he still is capable of beating everybody in the division. Like I said, it's only gotten better since he left. So hopefully, he's still one of the top guys. Everybody is still nominating him the king. Most people are. I would like to see him go toe to toe with some of these guys, but I do think he needs a welcome back package. Like he definitely needs a tune up or something light to get acclimated back into the ring, get his feet under him, get some back and forth exchanges. Make sure he can go certain rounds before he really goes in there into a championship fight after being out for 2 years and thinking he can jump in, being a lion, jump in with the Tigers and getting clipped or losing based on him just not having it. You know what I mean? Because he's been out for so long, he's gassing out. So, I mean, I think that's what you're trying to say. I believe.
No, I'm saying he's completely shot. Where I don't think he can. His chin is gone. After the Canelo fight, I don't think he can take a punch anymore. I really don't.
Oh, well, yeah, but he ran though. I mean, he didn't.
Yeah,
he really didn't take a lot of punishment. He was too busy, being a track star in that fight. So, but I will say this: I feel like, okay, with his circumstances, he probably could be by the rest of the 54 viewed as low hanging fruit because he's been out for 2 years, but yet he's still got a big enough name. He was undisputed king before, whatever. So the people are going to want to fight him, and they're going to come for him. And I agree with what Clay said, that if he doesn't do it right, it could be dangerous. He could be in treacherous waters, So it's interesting, but I'm just wondering, is he up for the task? Or does he just avoid 154 altogether and go to 160?
Well, this is what Johnny Blaze up here, and I just posted it up here. He talks about him going to 160. I just don't think there's no money at 160. Nope. So, and I mean, I think the only money that could legitimately be there at 160 would be against Janibek, which I think is a dangerous fight for him.
Or his own brother.
No, his brother's at 168.
Yeah, and not to mention Janibek's about to move up. But what I do understand is the division's there for the taking for him at 160. That is a golden point, but being that the division's there, like Clay said, is the funny there.
You're talking about legacy talk right now. Is he on that?
You're talking about money. So the money's not there, but the legacy is. So which one does he put forth? That's what it comes down to.
I think without a doubt he's coming back for 154. I think he wants 154. He knows there's big fights to there. I don't think the PBC gives him good money to fight at 160. I think he needs. I ain't gonna lie to you. I think all these fighters who want money, all these big fighters that want prize money, they need Turkey. Period. There's no big money outside of Turkey right now, unless you want to go and get on the long waiting list to fight Jake Paul. That's about it. You ain't getting no money in boxing like that without Turkey. If that was the case, Errol will be back. Teo would have been fought already. A lot of these fighters on the side who's looking to make like multiple millions, I'm talking about $5 to $10 million guaranteed. You need to get into the business of working with Turkey. And I don't think Turkey's interested in Jermell Charlo at 160. You know what I'm saying? I don't think he's interested
Clay,
in
could I ask something about Teo real quick?
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I'm a Golden Boy Promotions fan. It's more because of Oscar. He was my favorite fighter when I was little, and I'm hearing rumors from multiple sources saying that Oscar's maybe thinking of switching out Ryan for Teo. And in your guys' honest opinion, is that just switching one headache out for another? Like they're the same. Yeah, they have the same issue.
Yes.
Yeah, I think you have a better time with Teo though than Ryan.
Right.
Because I think Ryan actually can talk the shit he talks to Oscar. You know what I mean? I don't think Teo can. I think he tries to, but I think he's more of a Timu want to be Ryan Garcia, whereas Ryan Garcia really could be like, bro, I don't need. Ryan really has it. Ryan's like, he has Jake Paul energy in boxing. Like he is going to make money for whoever he gets in the ring with. So just to keep it simple, Landmine playing on,
it's his starter. He's just as big as a star as Oscar De La Hoya, and that's like two headaches in the room, right? It's two what they call it, it's sword fighting, as opposed to Teo, who looks like I hate to say it like that, but
real quick, I don't know how many people we got in the room, but please remember we hitting that to hit that like button if you haven't done it, and subscribe. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, double check and make sure you subscribe, hit your notifications so you are getting that when we doing these shows, man. I appreciate you. Sorry about that.
Right. And I think Teo is more of a company man, but he wants to be the head guy at the company. You know what I mean? He's more of the business type company man. He's not trying to be the biggest horse in the room. He's just trying to be the loudest horse. So I think you have a lot potential because Oscar loves to promote. And I think Teal's there for the promotion. He likes to be promoted. Ryan, on the other hand, is the star. He's a star, and he wants to share the star. Like, actually, he wants a spotlight on him, where Oscar also wants a spotlight on him. And I think that's a clash. So, yeah, I think Teal would much more.
Two big egos in the room that doesn't work well.
Like I said.
well, okay. You know what?
Energy.
Let me ask you this. Is two things. One, is Ryan really a star, or is it just because he has that many, internet followers or social media followers?
That's a star, bro.
Bro. Ryan's a star, bro.
He's a star.
He's
not a boxing star. I mean, he is a boxing star, but he's not like a name that resonates outside of boxing. He resonates, right? He's not a cultural. He's not a crossover. Yeah. Thank you. Perfect. Thank you. Yes, he has a great crossover point.
And Tszyu, I mean, he's got talent, but man, that guy's head is a bag of cats. I mean, with the shenanigans that homeboy be pulling this shit, I mean, come on. Tszyu, you never know what he's doing. He screwed himself out of so much money and so many fights, and all with all the racist stuff he did and everything. Well, both of them actually with that. It's ridiculous, man. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. Good.
I think you're talking. Listen, man, you preaching to the choir when you're talking that talk, because that's just the reality of his situation. And Teofimo has to truly, and Bob Arum said it the best, man. He said it, and I'm sorry, he just kept it 100. That boy needs to learn to shut his mouth, bro, and get back to doing what he does best, which is supposedly box. And I question if he can even do that as well as he used to, because I don't know that he's been getting better because he hasn't been fighting. A lot of that elevation and a lot of that evolution happens inside the ring, man. And when you outside the ring more than you inside the ring, and you're in the news and you're in the tabloids and you're in the social media space for doing things outside the ring more than you are doing inside the ring, I don't think that adds up to good news for a boxer. You know what I mean?
I think he's regressed. Yeah, look at the fight against Claggett. He did not do well in that fight at all.
Or Jermaine, or Sandor.
Yep.
Yeah, for me, and I'm a Teal fan to a point, and I feel that he has an issue where, depending on who his opponent is, he doesn't show up completely for the fight. He doesn't take the opponent seriously. That's what happened with Sandor, and not Claggett, the other guy you mentioned. Jermaine Ortiz. Yeah, he overlooked them a little bit heading into were those two fights before or after the Josh Taylor fight?
After.
In between.
No, right? Oh, yeah. Sandor was before,
and
Jermaine was after, yeah.
Yeah, no, the Sandor fight to me hurt him. Like, he has this, like, he doesn't care about certain opponents, and that's what hurts him. That's what hurt him against Kambosos. He wasn't taking Kambosos seriously. He shows up when he wants to. It's a mental thing for Tszyu. There's a mental block there. Do you guys agree with Tszyu that he doesn't show up for certain fighters?
I think that conversation is a little bit deeper for me, because I'll say yes to keep it simple, but I'll add to it and just say that Teofimo has a dynamic with his father that I think is stunting his growth as a boxer. And what I mean by that is Teofimo's getting comfortable with just doing him inside the ring. And I think something that he's missing is that leadership from the corner that he can buy into. And I don't think he buys into his father's leadership. I think he freestyles a lot. Whereas when you look at a Gervonta Tank Davis and, the way he was with Calvin and Kenny, or you look at Terrence and you think about Bomac, or you look at Shakur and you think about Moses, or you think about Canelo and you think about Reynoso. Like, these guys have guys that they can go to who will be like, champ, this is what you're doing. You need to stop, or boom, yeah, this is working. Keep doing that, and they buy into it. I think, for example, Daniel Dubois and Don Charles. I think Daniel Dubois stopped buying into the process and they got rid of him. I think when he was doing great was when he bought into the process, when he was doing what Don Charles was saying. As soon as he started pushing against the grain, you see they moved Don Charles out the way, which I don't think is necessarily good. But bringing it back full circle to say that Teofimo Lopez seemed to be missing that in his corner. And at times, you know what it looks like? It looks like he's by himself in the ring. It looks like he's by himself.
And and Clay, I've said that for me, I understand Devin, what's it called? Bill and Henry, Teo Sr. got them to where they are. But for me, I feel that those two guys being there is hurting their development in the long run because Bill is getting into Devin's head thinking he can knock out everybody and stuff like that. And his track record has proven otherwise. And I think that's what's happening with Teo, but not the knockouts thing. It's his father's getting into his head, and no legitimate trainer wants to deal with that like those two guys telling him what to do.
I think
I can't remember. I think
Teofimo Sr. has lost the respect of his son, bro. I would
hope so by now.
Yeah, I think that Teo respects his father as far as you're my dad, and I'm going to take care of you, and I have a responsibility to you, and I truly love you. You know what I'm saying? And I'm going to hold you down, and I'm not going to embarrass you and fire you or publicly out you. But ultimately, I think Senior has done I think their relationship outside the ring is culminated into what you see in the ring, which is Senior becoming way more humble, not as talkative as he used to be. He's not as vocal as he used to be. He still gets it in. If you put a mic in his face, he knows how to get busy. Pause. You know what I'm saying? But you can kind of see where Teo kind of decided, I don't know how many years ago. I don't know if it was after the Kambosos fight. Maybe it was, I don't know when it was, but at some point he started to
He listened to him during the
Well, there's a picture.
I think he listened to him during the Taylor fight, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, once again, freestyling, doing him,
right?
You know what I mean? Like, I think he's good. They've learned how to coexist in the space, but what you definitely don't see is Teofimo Sr. leading his son anymore. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, you see Bomac lead Terrence. You see Eddie Reynoso lead Canelo. You see these trainers, you know what I'm saying? Outside the ring, they live their lives and it's still
Ronnie
men,
Shields.
But you don't see that with Teo and his father.
But that's just it, though. I don't think Teo Sr. was leading him. He was trying to hog the spotlight from him at times. And there's a picture that I see a lot. Matter of fact, Ring IQ posts it a lot. And to me, it sums up their relationship and that whole situation. There was a point where Teo had won this fight. I forget which fight it was, but in the picture, Teo's sitting there with his arms up and yelling, he won. And his dad is in front of him, cut him off in the picture wearing the gold leisure suit. And he's got his arms up and he's cheering all hard like he's the one who won the fight. And he cut Teo off partially from the camera. And that, to me, sums up exactly their situation. He's been needing to step back and step away for a long time, and it's finally starting to happen a little bit. But that guy, I feel like he's messed his son's career up, and that picture is proof. But go ahead, you were saying?
Yeah, no. What I was saying is, I think it was Robert Garcia. He said he went into Teo's camp, and he couldn't handle Senior telling him, controlling everything he was doing. Like, these big time trainers don't want to deal with either Bill or Teo Senior telling them what to do, how to improve their sons, because of the ego. They want to control. The fathers want to control everything, and it's hurting these two guys in the long run. I feel.
I kind of disagree with that real quick. I know, Clay. I know you want to get out of here.
No, not only that, but I actually want to segue into one more topic before.
Yeah.
But as far as like the Bill, I think I know where you're about to go. I just think that Bill and Teo Senior is two complete different.
Animals. I think Bill gets out the way. Clearly gets out the way.
I think he gets into it with people on social media, like who'll get onto these channels. But if Devin is in the room, Bill will allow Devin to do him. Bill won't get in front of Devin. But if Devin is not there, like if Bill is on this panel, for example, then he's defending or he's promoting or he's speaking. Devin's not here, so he's going to have that mouth, and he does get under people's skin. But I think Senior did have an issue with when it came time to them being both in the room. Senior would kind of jump in there, and I think that's what kind of wired Teofimo to kind of fight. Props to Teofimo for not being a pushover. Like you see, for example, just for an example, Floyd Schofield Jr. and Senior, like you still see Senior do that to Junior. Junior hasn't really had that conversation or convinced him enough to be like, yo, bro, when I'm in the room, it's about me, bro. I need you to be quiet. Senior has a hard time not jumping in and being that dude that he's being. You know what I'm saying? But I wanted to go over one more topic before we bounce. I want to speak on Lamont Roach just a little bit right now, being that what we're looking at with Lamont Roach, and he kind of got screwed over with this whole Gervonta Tank Davis conversation, clearly. But regardless, he has some momentum going on about him. He's built a little bit of momentum that he can capitalize off of. And everybody's wondering what his next move is going to be. He's still a current 130-pound WBA champion, but now conversations about 2026 being a pretty good year for him as far as potentially fighting Shakur Stevenson or maybe even going up to 140 and getting a shot at an IBF title against a Richardson Hitchens, or maybe he might fight Gary Antoine Russell, for a WBA title up there. Who knows? But ultimately, there's a conversation about this fight in between. He's looking to be active, and he's looking to get in the ring for 2025. Some people are rumoring, obviously Floyd has thrown the hat in to the race as far as Jermell Moulton is concerned. I'm heard Gabriel Flores is a potential option for him to stay busy. Do you guys have any perspective to share on that? Any way to look at it? Who
Raymond Morataya for me.
Lamont?
Yeah, Lamont.
I think that could be a good fight, but I don't think I think Raymond's in negotiations with Schofield Jr. right now. And but maybe, I don't know.
Or Zepeda, maybe.
That'd be a good fight.
Well, here let's take this into consideration that his big payday and his big fight that he's looking at is Shakur Stevenson or fighting Gervonta Tank Davis. If Gervonta comes back from the Jake Paul fight, or fighting for a title up at 140 with Hitchens. Those are the money fights. So I think we got to balance it out and be realistic and understand that whatever fight he's going to take, it's got to be it's going to be more winnable than normal, right? It's going to be, I'm staying busy, but I'm not trying to necessarily, William Zepeda could beat him. You know what I mean? Certain fights are kind of like
Liam
Charlo might be a decent fight, but and it is for a title, but there's no money really behind it. Who's going to get behind it? The money for him is Shakur Stevenson. So in my opinion, it's either going to be Gabriel Flores or I think the Jermell Moulton fight is really an attractive fight for me as a fan.
That's high risk.
It's high risk, but Floyd is a good judge of character, bro. And I feel like Floyd wouldn't push it if he thought it was as dangerous as we think it is. I think he knows something we don't know, but I do think it's.
I have a question. How about Xander?
Xander?
No, he said
Sander.
Oh, Sanders.
Sandor.
Oh, Sandor Martin. Dangerous fight, bro, but a good fight, bro. Dangerous fight.
I think he should fight Shakur. If that's the money fight, it's a win either way because one, he gets his money. Two, if he wins, that's great, but he probably won't. But if he loses to Shakur, well, that's not an embarrassing loss. It's Shakur.
Well, the thing about the Shakur fight is it won't happen until 2026. And Shakur he's in negotiations with Teofimo. So you don't want to throw your eggs in that basket, A, because of the TO, but also is he trying to take the rest of 2025 off and wait till 2026 for Shakur? Or is he going to be active? I think he wants to be active and get a fight in. Because if he doesn't get a fight in, he's going to be damn near a year hiatus from the sport by the time he gets in the ring with Shakur. What do you think, Ray?
Is it the big money fight him versus what's his name? The champion, the junior junior at 134 at 140. He's a champion right now. Brian, not Norman. My God, I forgot his name now. He fought.
140?
Yeah.
Sabriel, Teofimo, Richard Hitchison.
He Gary Antoine. Would that be a big money fight?
Yeah, it would be decent. I don't think it'd be big money. It'd be a good fight though, because it's from the area. It'll get it'll be a lot of back end money to be made in that because they're both from DC area. So that would be a big fight in that case. But for fans, I think if we're really talking about boxing, I think we got two options. We find ourselves a British boxer, put in the ring with him, a good quality British boxer, or we take Mark Masayo, who moved up from 126, went through 130 as a champion, has a good resume in 135, and I think that's the most surprising and strongest fight for him. It's super competitive. I think both fighters will be equally distributed with, like, no one's going to expect Masayo to win, just like no one's going to expect what's the name to lose to Mark Masayo. But Mark Masayo brings something to the table when he's fighting. So, I mean, I think that's the option for him. That's what it's a lower risk, low reward, and it gives him the pedigree. You know what I mean? It gives him the name, former champion. You put him in Antoine Russell before Shakur fight, that's a high risk. You put him in the ring with like all these other guys, it's high risk. I think you want to keep him somewhere, Joe Cardina, Padley, somewhere around there where, you know, these guys can win, but your census is, you know, you're giving them a tune-up fight, an adjustable fight to get acclimated to the division. So you don't want to really push them too far into the mix of some of these top guys.
Yeah, I could agree with that. I think that's a wise thing to do.
Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot. All right, fellas, it's about that time for me. We're heading to about I don't know, 3 hours or so. Got stuff to do. It's Sunday, man. Just wanted to pop up and build with the community a little bit. I appreciate everybody who stopped in the building, man. Shout out to everybody who hopped up on the panel. Punch Drunk, you country, newcomer and new subscriber to the channel, Anthony Manzano. Shout out to everybody in the building. Shout out to my brother Blue Blood Sports TV in the building, man. I appreciate all you guys, man. Until the next one, man. It's your boy Clay. It's that ATP Combat Media Show, man. And at this point,
man. Have a good night, fellas.
All right, you good.
We out.
Make it this far, they hated, they never believe me. Yeah, I would never drop the ball, I know I make it look easy. Yeah, Mayweather with the defense. I don't care what a critic got to say, I got them picking up the pieces. That mean you really playing with your life, I'm about to come and run it all back. I'm the new era, about to snap back. You ain't fitting for it, cause you all cap like, hold up, I shoot my